The Sparta Board of Education regular meeting is called to order at 6 o'clock even. Chad, if you can please read the meeting notice announcement.
The New Jersey Open Publics Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the rights of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Sparta Board of Education has caused notice of the time and place of this meeting to be published in the New Jersey Herald, the Star Ledger, tap into sparta.net, and notice of this meeting has been posted on the Sparta Township School District website.
Thank you, Chad. Barbara, can we please have a roll call?
Ms. Collier?
Here.
Dr. Hinkle?
Here.
Dr. Martinez?
Here.
Ms. McMichael?
Here.
Mr. Morris? Ms. Serafino?
Here.
Ms. Williams?
Here.
Mr. Wood?
Here.
And Ms. Gagnon?
Present.
Quorum confirmed.
Thank you. If everyone can join me standing for the pledge. We will be convening into closed session, whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, provides for the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Sparta Township Board of Education is of the opinion that such circumstances exist to discuss legal matters as well as referendum matters, which are exempt from public participation pursuant to New Jersey Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, Open Public Meetings Act. Therefore, be it resolved that the Sparta Township Board of Education shall enter executive session on February 20th at 6:02 p.m. We will reconvene in public session at the conclusion of the executive session. We estimate by 7 o'clock. We're going to try to keep that tight for the presentations that we have this evening. The information discussed during executive session will be disclosed to the public as soon as it is determined by the board that the information is no longer confidential. Motion to enter closed. Thank you, Kurt. Second?
Second.
Thanks, Lauren. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Good to go. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February board meeting. Resolved that the Board of Education closes executive session and enters back into the public portion of our meeting at 7:03. Yep, 7:03. Joanne, can we please have a roll call? Oh, excuse me, Barbara. So sorry.
It's okay. Ms. Collier?
Here.
Dr. Hinkle?
Here.
Dr. Martinez?
Here.
Ms. McMichael?
Here.
Mr. Morris? Ms. Serafino?
Here.
Ms. Williams?
Here.
Mr. Wood?
Here.
And Ms. Gagnon.
Present.
Quorum confirmed.
Thank you, Barbara. I'm so sorry. We're going to move on to district recognition, and we'll be starting off with the Governor Educator of the Year Awards, presented by our building principals and Dr. Beck.
Good evening, everyone. I was just telling the Board of Ed downstairs that this is by far the best board meeting of the year. The February board meeting is the best board meeting of the year because that's when we get to honor our best teachers in each school, but also not just honoring the best teachers in each school, but the way I look at it is the teachers and ed service professionals that you see tonight and that you hear about tonight. That's just a snapshot of what we have in our district, the great teaching staff and support staff that we have in our district. So it's a great night to honor all of our staff, actually, but specific staff this evening. So what I will do now is I will call up, we're going to do all of the buildings, and we'll go in grade order. So Alpine will be first, so I will call up Mr. Miller.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mr. Miller. I'm the principal of Alpine Elementary School, and I have the honor of recognizing two of our staff members today. The first one is our educational services professional, and that is Danielle Drummond. If Ms. Drummond can come up. Currently, Ms. Drummond is a preschool classroom aide, instructional aide. She's kind of a lifer in the education world, whereas she's been working for a family member who owned a preschool or a daycare center, so that's how she kind of got into all of this. She started working in Sparta in 2020, and we've had the benefit of her services for the last couple of years. She has an associate's degree from Morris County, as well as a bachelor's degree from Montclair State University, but her real passion is exercise, and she does CrossFit, so she's always kind of working out. I ask, well, why would you want to work in the preschool world? And one of her answers I kind of had that aha moment, as you'll see in a minute. She says it's the simple things, especially for our preschool students, our youngest students. Spending time with them, going over the life skills, teaching them something on a daily basis. And as they finally get it, even as simple as doing a jacket, zipping a jacket up, and all of a sudden they get that aha moment. That's the things that she really loves about being and working with our preschool, because the students are saying, I did it, I finally was able to do something, they accomplished something. One of the big things that Ms. Drummond does as well is she works for our school in the summer. She just doesn't work in our preschool. She works with our custodial staff in the summer, cleaning the school. And I always laugh because she always has a smile on her face, no matter what she's doing in the summer or even during the school year. And that's one of the big benefits that I feel that she brings to our school, that smile and that positive energy on a daily basis, walking through the hallways. And there's some tasks she has to do being in preschool, walking through the hallways, and she knows what I'm talking about because it seems like every time I see her, she's walking down the hallway with a bag, going to the garbage because she needs to throw it out. She's always willing to do anything for everyone. She's just a big benefit for our school. If you did walk into a preschool classrooms, there's three things you'll probably see her doing. She's sitting on the floor, working, teaching, and playing with our students. She's cleaning up one of the fun activities that they were doing, or she's always preparing for the next activity. She's always doing something. She's a workaholic, and we're just very, very honored to have her in our school, Ms. Danielle Drummond. Bear with me, I apologize. I didn't bring my reading glasses. As I'm getting older, I need them, and I don't think this is long enough. I didn't enlarge it enough. Our governor teacher is Mrs. Amy Dolan. If Mrs. Dolan can come up. Mrs. Dolan is a proud alumnus of Alpine. A matter of fact, our custodian has a picture of her sitting on the steps of Alpine when she was actually there as a student, so the other students can see that. So she's also an alumnus of our Sparta School District. Currently, she's an instructional intervention reading teacher, which is like a basic skills teacher. And previously in district, because she's been in Sparta District her whole teaching career, I'm sorry to say this, but for 26 years, she's been in our district. We've had the benefit of having her. She's taught kindergarten and first grade. Her big passion is kindergarten, but now lately it's the reading, and teaching our youngest students who struggle with reading on how to do that. She's also a mentor for our non-tenured teachers, so she's working with those people, getting them into the profession. She has her bachelor's degree from Kutztown University and then a master's degree from Moravian University in curriculum instruction. And a big honor, I think, for our school is she also, from Fairleigh Dickinson University, she has her Orton-Gillingham certification. And we train all of our teachers in Orton-Gillingham to help that with multisensory reading. But she has the certification that is above and beyond just the training that we give. So that's an honor, and I just wanted to give her that recognition. One of the benefits that we have for Mrs. Dolan on our staff is she's part of our Sunshine Committee. She's kind of like always trying to do something fun for the staff, always trying to make them either our breakfasts or anytime we have a staff meeting, she's trying to come up with something to kind of help with the morale. Why did she get into education? And I thought this was one of the big reasons that I thought that kind of touched me when I heard this. She wanted a teacher. She wanted to teach her students and be the teacher that she needed when she was a little girl. So she wants to make that difference in the lives of those students, and that she had a teacher like that at one point. So I thought that was pretty telling of her, because she wants to make a difference. And again, she does that with our youngest students, the kindergartners, as well as now you're working with our first and second graders. And another part of that was every child deserves to feel special. So I always feel the honor of being at Alpine, because I always feel like our staff members are there for the right reasons. And Mrs. Dolan is kind of epitomizes that. Some of the quotes that people have said about Mrs. Dolan. Students are held up to high expectations, but she's also she makes it a warm place that offers a safety net for the students to take risks, make mistakes, and explore their education and learning. Her love of learning and her students go beyond just the hallways of the school building. Her students truly become her best friend, and although they may be there to learn, they know they can go to her for anything. She is fun and loving. I look forward to seeing her every day to see what exciting things she has for us and what we're going to learn next. She's always there for a helping hand for all of our staff members, and I must say that we're lucky to have Mrs. Dolan on our staff, and this is a well-deserved honor after 26 years. So thank you so much.
Good evening. I am Katie Madsen. I'm the principal of Mohawk Ave. I would like to call up Ms. Caitlin Schweigart, who is our Education Service Professional of the Year. It is with great joy and honor that I stand before you tonight to recognize an individual who has gone above and beyond in supporting the students, staff, and mission of our school. As many of you know, paraprofessionals play an essential role in ensuring that our students succeed, and today we are proud to celebrate one exceptional member of our team. Ms. Schweigart is someone who consistently demonstrates dedication, compassion, and an unwavering commitment to making a difference in the lives of our students. Ms. Schweigart is not just an assistant, but a true partner in education. She brings creativity, patience, and enthusiasm to every task, large or small. What makes Ms. Schweigart stand out is her genuine care for each student she works with. She doesn't just help students learn, she empowers them. Whether it's providing support in the classroom, offering guidance during difficult moments, or encouraging students to believe in themselves, Ms. Schweigart goes above and beyond in every way. In addition to her work with students, she is a valued team member among our staff. She is always willing to lend a hand, share ideas, and offer support. Ms. Schweigart truly embodies the spirit of collaboration that makes our school such a special place. It's because of these qualities and more that we are proud to honor Ms. Schweigart tonight. Ms. Schweigart, thank you for everything you do for our students, our staff, and our community. Your hard work and dedication do not go unnoticed, and we are lucky to have you as part of our team. I'd like to call up Mrs. Shannon Sullivan, our Governor Educator of the Year. It is an absolute privilege to stand before you tonight to honor one of our most outstanding educators. This award is not just about recognizing excellence in teaching, but about celebrating someone who has gone above and beyond to inspire, challenge, and support our students in ways that extend far beyond the classroom. Mrs. Sullivan has shown a relentless commitment to her craft and to the students that she serves. Mrs. Sullivan's passion for learning is contagious, sparking curiosity and excitement in every lesson. She makes the complex understandable, the challenging achievable, and the learning experience truly transformative for her students. What sets Ms. Sullivan apart is not just her skill in the classroom, it's her genuine care for every student she teaches. She knows that each child is unique with their own strengths, challenges, and dreams, and she meets each one where they are. Mrs. Sullivan believes in her students. She encourages, inspires, and celebrates every success, no matter how big or small. Mrs. Sullivan doesn't just teach lessons, she builds relationships. She creates a safe, nurturing environment where students feel valued, heard, and supported. Her impact is felt far beyond the lessons she delivers. It is in the self-confidence she instills in her students, the growth she helps foster, and the lifelong love of learning she inspires. Beyond the classroom, Mrs. Sullivan is an invaluable member of our school community. She collaborates with colleagues, contributes to school events, and continuously looks for ways to make our school a better place for everyone. Mrs. Sullivan exemplifies the very best of what it means to be an educator. It's my honor and privilege to present her the Governor Educator Award. Mrs. Sullivan, thank you for your dedication, your passion, and your unwavering commitment to the success of every student you teach. You make a difference every day, and we are incredibly lucky to have you as part of our school family.
I'll introduce. Next up, Mr. Doug Lehman from Helen Morgan School.
Thank you. My name is Doug Lehman. I'm the principal at Helen Morgan School. I want to congratulate all of tonight's recipients. I'm going to start with our Educational Services Professional of the Year, and that is Candace Jan. Come on up. So whenever a new student registers at Helen Morgan School, probably all of our schools, we strive to make that student feel welcome. I don't know if anybody here has been in that situation where your child has started in the middle of a school year. I imagine it's very difficult, though. We try to make them feel welcome. We assign a buddy. We give them a tour. We meet with the parents. And when I have the opportunity to meet the student, I'll shake their hand. And I want to tell them how proud I am of them. And it's the first time I'm meeting them, but I'm proud of them because getting out of bed today, getting in that car, getting to school, this strange, unfamiliar place must have been very difficult for you. And I tell them that today's going to be hard, but tomorrow's going to be better, and the day after that's going to be even better, because you're going to be surrounded by adults and people that are going to make this place home to you. I give them a lot of credit for doing what they do, those students. Now, imagine that student is not able to speak English or has limited English skills, and how challenging that would be. And making that child feel welcome and wanted and comfortable requires a highly motivated, compassionate advocate. And we are fortunate to have Candace serve as that person. Presently, Candace serves as the K-8 multi-language learner provider. It's a population that she serves in 4 different buildings. Managing the logistics of that, probably deserving of this award in and of itself. But I think what's important to highlight about Candace's role isn't that she's just helping students develop English language skills that allow them to succeed academically, but more importantly, she helps them build the confidence to become active participants in our school community, to form meaningful relationships with peers and teachers, to go from a stranger in a strange land to being a proud Spartan. Candace, our hope, my hope, is that this award demonstrates to you how much we all value your contributions, effort, and advocacy for this unique population of students. Thank you. Our Teacher of the Year at Helen Morgan School is none other than Kelly Doherty. So for the past approximately 5 years, we've made a significant effort as a district to focus on something we call our inclusive classroom model. And the goal of an inclusive classroom, not unlike any other classroom really, is to provide a learning environment in which all students are empowered to succeed. And to achieve this, we use something called a co-teaching model. And there is no better example of what a highly effective co-teacher is and should be than Kelly Doherty. Kelly is a dedicated and enthusiastic special education teacher who strives to create an engaging environment for all of her students. She truly goes above and beyond in creating lessons that meet the diverse needs of her classroom. And she does it always with a smile. As the sign says in her room, because nice matters. Kelly is a trusted colleague, a dependable teammate, a passionate student advocate, a world-class shopper, and one of those people that brings light to the world. Her every day is a bonus outlook on life is contagious. Kelly, I state with confidence that the staff at Helen Morgan School believes that you represent the best of what we are and what we hope to be, and congratulations.
Next, Mr. Frank Tribori, principal of Sparta Middle School.
Well, thank you, everyone. My name is Frank Tribori, building principal at Sparta Middle School. And tonight it is my sincere pleasure to introduce to you tonight the Governor Educator of the Year and the Educational Services Professional of the Year from Sparta Middle School. I will begin with the SMS Educator of the Year, Mrs. Charlene Molnar. So Ms. Molnar currently teaches English language arts to 8th grade students on the J team at Sparta Middle School. Throughout her years at Sparta Middle School, she has consistently demonstrated a commitment to excellence in education, making a profound impact on both students and colleagues. Ms. Molnar is the type of teacher who challenges her students while instilling in them the confidence to meet her high expectations. She provides excellent models for learning, adapts her teaching to best suit her students, and always finds something positive in every child, whether it be their kindness, humor, or talents outside the classroom. Her classroom is a place where students feel valued, supported, and encouraged to reach their full potential. Beyond the classroom, Ms. Molnar plays a vital role in the bigger school community. As the SMS Yearbook Advisor, she leads a group of motivated students who take pride in organizing, preparing, and producing one of the highlights of the school year. Ms. Molnar is additionally the team leader for the J team and acts as the go-to person for that group of teachers. One of her colleagues shared this about Ms. Molnar. She has been an integral part of my growth as a teacher. She immediately made me feel welcome at SMS years ago, offering her guidance in developing lesson plans, learning the curriculum, and meeting the high standards of our district. And my favorite part to share is what the students have to say about Ms. Molnar. It's all good. One student mentioned that Ms. Molnar is awesome. She is so nice and caring, and I really like talking with her. Another student said, I never really liked ELA until this year. Ms. Molnar has made it really fun. As you can see, Ms. Molnar is a very valuable member of our SMS family. She has made a positive impact on both the student body and the SMS staff. And at this time, I would like to congratulate her and introduce Ms. Molnar as our Governor Educator of the Year. Next, I would like to introduce to you the Sparta Middle School Educational Services Professional of the Year, Ms. Colleen Geddes. Ms. Geddes has been a dedicated social worker for a school social worker for 22 years, making a profound impact on the lives of students, families, and colleagues. And in a field filled with challenges, having a compassionate and skilled professional like Ms. Geddes is invaluable. She has an incredible ability to ensure that every student feels heard, validated, and supported. Ms. Geddes' expertise in building trusting relationships motivates the students she works with to succeed not only academically, but also socially and emotionally. She approaches each day with a positive outlook, despite the ever-changing nature of her role. No matter what the day brings, she remains committed to her students and families, ensuring that they have the support and resources needed to thrive. Beyond her work with students, Ms. Geddes is the go-to person in our child study team for both the administration and her colleagues. Her depth of knowledge, patience, and willingness to help make her an invaluable resource in our community, in our school community, whether it's from problem solving, offering guidance to a colleague, or providing insight to administration. She is always ready to step in and support those around her. Her selflessness and dedication to the team do not go unnoticed. She consistently puts others before herself, offering her time, expertise, and encouragement whenever needed. It is not uncommon for Ms. Geddes to be the last one to drive out of the SMS parking lot each evening. Over the past 5 years, this department has experienced significant turnover, yet Ms. Geddes has been the glue that has held everything together. She has gone above and beyond to maintain stability, ensuring that students, staff, and families continue to receive the highest level of support despite these challenges. We are incredibly grateful for Ms. Geddes' commitment and fortunate to have her as a vital part of our school community. She is not only an outstanding professional, but also truly a remarkable person, and it is with great admiration that I, at this time, recognize Ms. Colleen Geddes as the SMS Educational Services Professional.
And last and certainly not least, Sparta High School and the principal, Dr. Ed Lazara.
Thanks, sir. Good evening, everyone. Let me first start by congratulating all of our recipients this year, and let me explain just a little bit about the process for Educator of the Year and Ed Services Professional of the Year. We collect nominations, and then we put together a team of administrators and teachers, former recipients, and parent in the district. And as you can imagine, we have a big high school. We have about almost 1,100 kids there, and we have a big staff. So to win this award it's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big deal. And we have a great staff, a well-respected staff, so I'm proud to honor the people here tonight. So first up is our Ed Services Professional of the Year, and that's Laura Amin. So what I did was took some of the nominations and letters of nomination and put them together, what teachers and people were saying about our recipients. In her role as a classroom aide, she successfully supports students' work completion, academic performance, and organization. However, while this may be her job description, her impact on the student goes much deeper than that, as she seeks to support struggling students to successfully move forward in their educational programs as well as in their personal growth. Her authentic nature, patience, intelligence, and innate ability to understand and connect with those she works with has been transformative in so many of our students' lives. Many of these students struggle with motivation, lack confidence in their abilities, and did not find school to be an easy, welcoming, and comforting place. However, Laura's gift is to connect with them, gain their trust, help them to believe in themselves. She accepts and respects them, not only for who they are, but what they are, where they are in their journey. She sees the best in them, and this creates an opportunity for disengaged learners to begin to believe in themselves and see their potential, gain confidence in their strengths and their talents. It is through this sharing of our heart that the students begin to take growth-focused risks. They face fear of failure, they reconnect to school, they take on challenges, and they put effort into the learning and schoolwork. And we are so fortunate to work with Laura. She positively touches and changes the lives of every student she works with. Ms. Amin works tirelessly to ensure that every student feels seen, heard, and supported. Her ability to build meaningful relationships with her students is unparalleled. Student Daniel K. shared, Ms. Amin was a great advocate for me and helped me get through the tough times I had last year. Another student, Jamie, remembers Ms. Amin's kindness and support, sharing she always listens to me and guided me. And another student, Nick, shared, she always helps everyone at the school every day. She listens and always makes us feel good about ourselves. Beyond her work with students, Ms. Amin is a model of collaboration. She does so with the spirit of cooperation that fosters a positive and productive environment. She's earned the trust and respect of her peers, parents, and the community. Thanks to her consistent professionalism and genuine care for all of those that she works with. Her efforts have made Sparta High School a better place for everyone, and her students and colleagues alike are fortunate to have her as part of the school community. Laura Amin, congratulations. And next, our Educator of the Year is Miss Tina Johnson. Ms. Johnson joined Sparta High School over 10 years ago as a self-contained teacher for West Mountain Academy, a specialized program within the high school for students who struggle socially, behaviorally, academically, and emotionally. Tina set a high standard as a teacher, mentor, and colleague, and she quickly became a tremendous asset and advocate for the students and families she worked with. Graduation rates for students who are at risk of not meeting state requirements have steadily risen under her watch. It is not unusual to hear her students and parents express they couldn't have done it without her on graduation day. When she started with WMA, there were 4 students in the program. This year, there are over 20. She has created an environment for students to feel safe, accepted, comfortable, and successful in a setting where they have previously struggled. It is common practice in her classroom to celebrate students receiving their driver's license, honor roll, first jobs, college acceptances, birthdays, and the list goes on and on. As her students move through high school, she becomes a mentor and a life coach. Many of them continue to reach out to her to share their successes and challenges and seek her guidance. She has been included in their baby showers, graduation parties, weddings, and going away parties for those serving in the military. For many of these students, she had become a constant and a confidant. Tina is a positive force in the Sparta High School community. SEL or Climate Committee, she's a member. Need someone to set up Pi Day? Create bulletin boards of staff baby pictures or their favorite shows and movies? Staff prom pics? She organizes that. Tina's organizes trivia nights, denim days, staff breakfast in the faculty lounge, all attributed to Mrs. Johnson. Staff birthday announcements. She goes and sends an email for every birthday of a staff member throughout the year. And when the summer comes, she lists 30 people that have their birthday throughout the summer. Sunshine Club, organizing graduates to come back and speak to students. That's her. Prom and dance chaperone. Need a food truck or a gift card to local restaurants? Ask Mrs. Johnson. She's well connected. Want to talk Yankees or Giants? You found your girl. She knows her sports. Need a volunteer? You guessed it. Ask for Mrs. Johnson. Countless hours of her prep time is taken up helping colleagues or students. She's always seeking ways to advance her skills, knowledge, and continuing her education. She goes beyond the hours of the school day. Her knowledge of academic content, social and emotional development, ability to incorporate life lessons into her planning, and her belief in every single one of her students creates an incredible learning environment at Sparta High School. And we are certainly lucky to have her as our Educator of the Year, Tina Johnson. I'm really proud of you because usually you're a crier, so.
How about one more round of applause for all of our recipients? I would also like to thank the principals who came up with, who put together those great narratives. That's really a reminder as to why our teachers do what they do. Not for the award, but for the reward, actually, which is helping students. So those narratives are very nice. And one other thing I noticed while I was standing up here is not only the family members that are here, which is great because none of these staff members get where they are without the support of their family, but looking through the audience and seeing all the staff members that are here. Just really current staff members, retired staff members, just really drilling home the idea that, again, none of these staff members, no staff member can do this alone. We are a team, but also that we are a family. So it's great to see everybody out in the audience tonight. So what we will do now, as much as I'm sure you came for the ethics presentation, we're going to take, no offense, we're going to take like a really brief recess to those that want to clear out. I'm sure Ms. Derricks wants to get some pictures out in the hallway. So we'll take a brief recess and then we will get right back into the board meeting in about 2 minutes.
I had Miss Molnar. Yeah, really liked her.
The wrong answer to my quiz today.
Matt, is this off, Matt? Stay on. I don't know. They'll turn it back. No. It's a nice car. There we go. Get in this, Dr. Beck? Good, man. Just a couple meters. You were leading that one.
Is it under $25? That's all I really want to know.
Chad, what's up, buddy? He only goes to a couple. He sells the rest. We got so many attendants.
No, I love this.
The Tennessee volunteer. That's it. He is a volunteer. Wow. You're gonna learn Rocky Top. Wow. That's awesome. Congrats. Morgan Wallen's a big thing. Is it 10? 10. All right. Well, it's not. Could be worse. Could be California. Could be South Carolina. South Carolina's the further the better for her, huh? All right, Mr. Landon, clear him out. All right. There. Big time. All right, good. How'd it go, all right? Yeah. No way to put away. Here to support
No, because I was thinking she walked up to me, and then I was here. She was like my long lost friend also. That is funny.
Get him out.
All right.
All right, time for the big show. Just as exciting.
Yes.
Yes. I said I overstepped. I took the president's duties and
No,
called a
you did
recess.
great.
I hope that's okay.
It was fine.
We were planning on
Yes.
doing it anyway. You did it the more
Yeah,
informal way.
Yes.
it was good though.
That's a veteran move. The first year, it was like, oh, I'm never going to get out of here. Because now the people that want to stay are.
Well, not only that, it was funny. It was like, you make it look like emotional quick, and I was like, they're all off on the camera anyway. No one's gonna know who's talking. But I think it was perfect,
Yeah, it's good.
and it cleared out my gosh quite a bit.
I got to remember to remind those principals.
I was-
It's like 2 minutes per teacher. Come on.
Oh, okay. All right. It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do it
The
now.
last thing they get a luncheon in the spring
Please
with
no.
all the teachers.
Can't go anywhere.
It's
It's
a
going
big deal.
nowhere.
And they get honored there, and they get a plaque. So they get multiple honors.
Right. I have not seen this room that crowded in a long time.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yes. Crowded for a positive. I was actually gonna make that comment. I was like, nah.
I would have laughed.
Take it easy. Take it easy. I'll just make fun of Mark instead. We'll give Mark a hard time
Either
instead.
way.
Yeah.
Moving on to presentations, probably didn't need the gavel. 5.1 presentations, we are going to have our Board Attorney, Mark Zittimer, present on board ethics.
Take one and pass it down,
Sure.
please. Thank you.
Mark, the clicker should be up there.
What'd you say?
The clicker should be up there for you.
Oh, okay.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Members of the board, members of the administration. Thank you, Kurt. Appreciate it. I'm hurt and offended that everybody seems to have left for the most part, but I guess that's to be expected. Nice to see everybody, members of the board, members of the community, members of the administration. We're going to talk about the New Jersey School Ethics Act. It's a requirement that every year we discuss the Ethics Act, and I'm going to talk about some of the Code of Ethics provisions and some of the cases over the years that have interpreted these laws. And I try to keep this interactive as well, keep everybody on their toes. So I always feel that a good place to start is the preamble to the School Ethics Act, and it really talks about why we have this law in the first place. And what it says is that in our representative form of government, it's essential that conduct of members of local boards of education and local administrators hold the respect and the confidence of the people. Officials must avoid conduct which is in violation of the public trust or which creates some justifiable impression among the public that such trust is being violated. What does all that mean? It means that you have to act in the best interests of the Sparta School District, not in your own personal best interest, not in your own financial interests, not in the personal interests of family or friends or businesses that you're involved with. And I always tell board members, if somebody can reasonably question that you perhaps may be acting for some other reason than something that is in the best interest of the school district, you need to take a step back and you need to say, does this pass the smell test? Is this something I should get legal counsel on? Is this something we should go to the Ethics Commission for an advisory opinion before I jump into it and take action? And I'll talk about the advisory opinion process in a little bit. So who does the Act apply to? The Act applies, of course, to board members. But some people are surprised to learn that it also applies to school administrators as well. Not just board members, but the superintendent, the business administrator, assistant superintendents, and so forth. Now, we have the Code of Ethics, which I handed out to everybody. That only applies to the ethical conduct of Board of Education members. So the Act essentially is broken down into two parts. You've got the prohibited acts. Again, I handed it out to everybody. The prohibited acts essentially deal with conflicts of interests. Things like board members shouldn't act in a matter where they have a direct or indirect personal or financial involvement that could somehow compromise their objectivity. And then you've got all the Code of Ethics provisions, which I'm going to go through now, that apply only to Board of Education members. And so Section A says that board members are supposed to essentially follow the law, follow court orders pertaining to the school, and so forth. Section B is you're supposed to make decisions in terms of the educational welfare of all children. You're here for everybody, regardless of race, religion, creed, sexual orientation, and so forth. Section C really defines what it is to be a board member. People say, what is the role of a board member? You're a policy-making body. That is essentially the role of a board member. You set policy for the school district. Policy, you plan for the future, and then you appraise. You take a step back and say, how are we doing? We have a policy company, as you all know, that pretty much gives us the templates of our policies. However, we have discretion within a lot of those policies to shape them to what we feel is best for the Sparta School District. Some are mandated policies, some are discretionary policies. Our policy company usually will tell us which are the ones that we have to have by law, set forth in statute, and some of the others where we have discretion. Section D. And this is an area where board members frequently get themselves into trouble if you read the decisions from the School Ethics Commission, because sometimes board members don't fully understand the difference between being a policy-making body and being an administrator, and they get into the school district and all of a sudden they think they're going to run the place. That's the role of the administration. Board members are to not administer the schools, but together with your fellow board members, make sure that they are well run. Not to run the schools, but to see that it is well run. The administration is the responsibility of Dr. Beck and Ms. Decker and Ms. Rossi and the entire administrative team. That's their role, the day-to-day operations of the school district. And if you go on further in the New Jersey Administrative Code, it talks about if somebody were to file a complaint, what would they have to show to prove, for instance, that somebody violated that particular provision? Somebody would have to show that a board member became directly involved in activities or functions that are the responsibility of school personnel or the day-to-day administration of the school district. And here's an extreme example, but one I always like to talk about from 2005, a real case where the SEC, referring to the School Ethics Commission, found that a board member violated the administration of the schools provision when he went into the guidance office, started requesting documents and SAT reports from the director of guidance, then decides, this is in the middle of the school day, by the way, then he decides he's going to walk down to the locker room and start instructing the PE teachers about how they should better supervise the kids in class, did an inspection of the locker room, and just basically thought he was running the entire place. And somebody got smart and filed an ethics complaint against him, and clearly he was found to have violated the administration of the schools provision. Again, that's an extreme example, but it happens, believe it or not. Section E, as you recognize your authority rests with the board and you're not to take not make personal promises or take private action that could compromise the board. I always tell board members you have the authority to act when you're sitting here at the dais, through your various committees and so forth. But once you're, at the local supermarket, you don't have the authority to speak for the board. You don't have the authority to bind the board. You shouldn't be doing your own private investigations into matters affecting the school district. Those are all examples of taking private action that could compromise the board. And the code goes on to say it doesn't actually have to compromise the board. It's enough that it had the potential to compromise the board. Section F, you're to refuse to surrender your independent judgment to special interest groups, partisan political groups, or using the school for the personal gain of yourself or friends. I think that's pretty obvious. And it uses the word surrender your independent judgment. So that doesn't mean, for instance, that you can't advocate, for instance, if you're involved with special education parents, that you couldn't advocate for certain groups. The key words in that sentence are surrendering your judgment so that you've lost all objectivity. That's when it becomes problematic. Section G has two components to it. It's got the confidentiality provision and it's got the accuracy provision. So I'll talk about confidentiality first. And there's a drum you've heard me beat probably many times before in closed session, which is that as board members, you're going to come upon a lot of confidential information, confidential student matters, confidential personnel matters, litigation matters. Those are all things that are properly discussed in closed session. And I always tell you, as you know, your friends are not bound by confidentiality in terms of what we do here. Your family members. And it's really important that everything that we talk about in closed session, all the updates that you get from Dr. Beck and so forth, remain confidential. Because if the board doesn't have confidence that what we talk about in closed session stays in closed session, it really undermines our ability to be an effective body. Because quite frankly, nobody's going to want to have a conversation for fear that as soon as we leave that room, these folks, respectfully, are going to find out what we're talking about. It's going to appear on social media. So it's imperative that what we talk about privately remains private, and you shouldn't share it with, again, family members, friends, spouses, because ultimately if there's an ethics violation, it's on you, it's not on them. The other part of it is accuracy. And we're going to talk about the First Amendment in a second as you have rights as board members, First Amendment rights, but you have to be accurate. So when you speak at the dais, on social media, it's important that what you're saying is correct. So you could say, for instance, I'm voting against the budget this year because I think, we're spending too much money, whatever the case may be. That's your opinion, that's fine. You can't say I'm voting against the budget this year because we're adding 10 new administrators to the district if that's not a true statement. That's inaccurate. That's a violation of Section G. So it's very important that when you speak about school district matters, you're speaking accurately. H, voting to appoint the best qualified personnel after considering the recommendation of the superintendent. Dr. Beck, as you know, is the one who makes personnel recommendations as a matter of law. Board members can't appoint personnel without Dr. Beck's recommendation. You are to appoint them after considering the superintendent's recommendation. Does that mean you have to be a rubber stamp? No, it doesn't. Does it mean you get to ask good questions? Of course it does. And we'll talk in a second about what rights do you have to see some of the backup information that goes into Dr. Beck's recommendations. Section I, supporting and protecting school personnel in the proper performance of their duties. You're supposed to respect your administration, your teachers, your staff. You're not supposed to publicly evaluate them. To prove a violation, somebody would have to show that a respondent, meaning a board member, took deliberate action which resulted in undermining, opposing, compromising, harming school personnel in the proper performance of their duties. And believe it or not, there's lots of cases where board members violate this provision. And by the way, if you go to the New Jersey School Ethics Commission, they have their own website where they have all their cases listed, all of their advisory opinions listed. So everything I'm talking about today, you can certainly read up on if you'd like. Section J, I like Section J because to me this is a great opportunity for the board member to punt when they're in the local Stop and Shop and some parent comes up to them and says, oh, I understand you're on the board, Mr. Wood. I'm complaining to you because my child's teacher is giving too much homework and I want you as a board member to solve the problem for me. Section J says, thank you, you're supposed to say, Mr. Wood, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'm going to refer it to Dr. Beck. Can I have your name? I'll give it to him. You're supposed to refer the complaints to the chief school administrator, and then it goes on to say act on those complaints only after the failure of an administrative solution. And with Dr. Beck, we would never have the failure of an administrative solution, so you don't have to worry about that. But bottom line, refer the complaints to the superintendent. Your opportunity to say thank you very much, but I can't deal with that. That's not my role as a board member. It's also perfectly acceptable. I've been asked this question before. Can you refer to the chain of command? Can you say to the parent, hey, have you spoken to your child's teacher? Did you speak to the principal before even going to Dr. Beck? So referring somebody to the chain of command, I would say, is also proper. Who can file, I don't want you to see it. Who can file a complaint alleging a violation of the School Ethics Act or the Code of Ethics? Who can file a complaint? Anybody. Anybody can file a complaint. Is there a period of time by which you have to file the complaint, or it's stale, or what's called time barred? Do you know, is there a statute of limitations? What do you think?
Yes.
There is? Yep. Anybody want to guess? Somebody said it out here. Very good. 6 months. There's a 6-month statute of limitations. It used to be a year. But I think the School Ethics Commission was getting so many complaints, they decided, we better shorten that statute of limitations down a little bit. So there's a 6-month statute of limitations. After that, it's time barred. A Board of Education can't file a complaint against one of its own members, but individual board members could sign on to a complaint. Let's talk a little bit about the School Ethics Commission. Part of the Department of Education, they're an administrative body that's responsible for enforcing the School Ethics Act. They're the only ones who could determine whether a board member's conduct violated the Ethics Act or the Code of Ethics and what the penalty would be. Does anybody know who's on the School Ethics Commission? And I don't literally mean their names, but does anybody know who it's comprised of? Anybody? Anybody want to guess? Caitlin, you look like you want to...
Well, I know Catherine Whalen is the...
Kathy Whalen's the director. They have a director, yep. Your mic is off. Oh, yeah.
I was saying Kathy Whalen I met at one of the NJSBA conferences, and she was great. I believe she's the director. Mm-hmm. And then, if I'm not
She used to be the director, and now she actually works for school boards.
Oh,
she
that's
used to be the director.
That's right.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. But I know that they're elected, are they not?
They're appointed by the governor.
Appointed, excuse me. Okay.
So, I'm sorry, were you
And
done? Or
I think
go ahead.
it's 4 or 5 people, and isn't it dependent on county, or there's different locations?
Yep,
Getting warmer?
Yep, exactly.
4 or 5 people that are appointed by the governor.
So everybody's appointed by the governor. There's about 9 people, 5, you're right. So 5 are citizens, 2 are administrators, superintendents usually, and there's also 2 board members, believe it or not, that sit on the School Ethics Commission. So you could be a board member on the School Ethics Commission. Obviously, you couldn't rule about cases in your own district. That would be a conflict. But it's comprised of those 9 people. The Deputy Attorney General also sits on it as their lawyer. You've got the director now, I forget her name, but it used to be Ms. Whalen, who now works for school boards. If somebody violates the Ethics Act, what are the penalties? You got the reprimand at the lightest end. It's like a slap on the wrist. A censure is a resolution read at a public meeting. You could be suspended, or in the most extreme cases, removal. Can you file an ethics complaint against somebody who's no longer on the board? What do you think? Yes, as long as it's within the 6-month statute of limitations. The only constraint is that suspension or removal are obviously not an option for somebody who's no longer on the board. And for cases that actually go to hearing, it could take like a couple of years, believe it or not, before these cases are adjudicated. So it's a long process. I want to mention indemnification. So New Jersey law, this is outside the School Ethics Act, but New Jersey law essentially says that if a civil, administrative, criminal, or other proceeding is brought against a person for anything arising out of their duties in the course of the performance of their duties as a board member, the board has to provide them with a defense. We have to provide them with an attorney at our expense. And you don't have to be innocent of the ethics violation, believe it or not, to be entitled to indemnification. It's not a guilt or innocence thing. The question is, was the complaint brought against you for something you did as a board member? If somebody filed a complaint against you because they think you violated the ethics and voted to appoint your brother to be a teacher in the district, you'd be entitled to indemnification on that, whether you did it or not. The only time you actually have to be innocent is if it's a criminal matter. If it's a criminal matter, you only get indemnification if you're completely exonerated. With civil or administrative actions, the question is, did it arise in something you did as a board member? And it's very broadly construed in favor of indemnification. And the legislature wisely realized that nobody would ever run for a volunteer position if you knew that you could be out of pocket, tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees if somebody chose to sue you for something or filed an ethics complaint. So, you could put your head on your pillow at night knowing that there is this indemnification, and I know we have insurance for it also. So board member free speech issues. You have First Amendment rights as board members. You don't lose your First Amendment rights to speak your mind and speak freely on issues with certain caveats, and we already talked about them. You're not allowed to publicly disclose confidential information. You're not allowed to divulge inaccurate information, and you're not allowed to publicly evaluate staff. So those are some limitations right off the top. I also want to bring your attention to Board Policy 0146, and that's basically when you're outside this room, when you're writing a letter to the paper, when you're posting on social media, when you're giving a speech, you're not allowed to represent your opinion as the opinion of the Board of Education. In other words, you have to make it very clear that you're speaking as an individual and not on behalf of the board. The board president is the spokesperson for the board. Everybody else needs to have a disclaimer, and I'm going to talk about what that disclaimer says. And this is like the model disclaimer, and if anybody wants it, by the way, I can email it to all of you, but this is what the School Ethics Commission says really should be the standard model when you're writing a letter, when you're posting on social media, whatever it is. And it's that the following statements are made by me in my capacity as a private citizen and not in my capacity as a board member. These statements are also not representative of the board or its individual members and solely represent my own personal opinions. You should say that, and if you say that in a prominent place, you're covered. It doesn't mean you can't be found to have violated the ethics in other ways, and we talked about that already, but that is an absolute requirement. I also wanted to bring your attention to our board policy 0169.02, and I'm sorry about the small font, but this policy is available on our website. And it talks about the fact that board members have a right to use social media. I would say be cautious, because this is another area where board members frequently get themselves into trouble, but here are the requirements of our policy. Okay, so we shouldn't post anything that would violate our policies, number one. Number two, we shouldn't make defamatory statements about our fellow board members or administrators or teachers or anybody else in the district, students, parents, etc. Number three, not disclose confidential information. Not use their board titles if you're soliciting business on behalf of a business that you're affiliated with or a family member's affiliated with. We shouldn't have communications with each other on social media where we have a majority talking about board business. That implicates the Open Public Meetings Act. We shouldn't respond to postings on social media. We should refer those to Dr. Beck. And we shouldn't post information that the School Ethics Commission has already said is a violation of the School Ethics Act. So those are the limitations set forth in our policy. Any questions about anything I've talked about so far before I ask you a couple questions based on some recent cases? We good?
I have a random one. On the note of social media, the spring school update that I attended last year, they were very specific that this doesn't mean that for every post that has nothing to do with the school district, you have to include the disclaimer. So
Yeah.
would you say that that's accurate as long as it's not an egregious or political or, extreme
I would say
statement?
it's fine, I totally agree with that. As a matter of fact, even if it is political, for instance, if you had a Facebook page and said something like, I'm voting for Joe Biden or Donald Trump because I think they're the best candidate for the presidency of the United States, if you called me and said, do I need a disclaimer on that, I would say no. If you said that same statement, but you said, because I believe they would be best for the Sparta School District, then to me, you now hooked it to Sparta, and I would say you'd need a disclaimer. But if you're talking about a movie you went to or whatever, no.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, true or false? This is an advisory that came out this year. A board member is permitted to review the resumes of all candidates who were within the candidate pool for a position that was being recommended by the superintendent of schools. Do you think you can go in and review the resumes? If Dr. Beck's recommending John Smith to be the new lacrosse coach, what do you think? Kurt says yes. Anybody else? Rocky says false. Just to be contrary to Kurt. Kurt's been on the board for a while, and Kurt is right. That should have blown up. I don't know what happened, but it's true. I mentioned before that board members are required to appoint the best qualified person after considering the recommendation of the superintendent. What that means is you have a right to see the backup that went into that. You shouldn't just show up at the board office and start demanding documents, but you can make an appointment. I wouldn't suggest that they leak out of the office because people apply to jobs with an expectation of confidentiality. You shouldn't even tell people who applied here, obviously, for the same reason that when people apply, they want to feel secure that if they don't get the position, their current employer is not going to find out. But true, you have a right, and that's what the advisory opinion said, A14-24. You have a right to see the backup. How about this one? A board member violated Section D of the Act, and this is the School Ethics Act, not the Code of Ethics, when he continued to serve as a volunteer football coach after being appointed to the board until the football season was ended, which was approximately 2 months after he was seated as a Board of Education member. So basically, he was a volunteer coach before, gets on the board, and then continues to serve as a volunteer football coach for about 2 months while he was a board member. Do you think that was a violation of Section D? Is there an extra copy of the, of the Code of Ethics? I don't want to take anybody's, but I think, oh, there we go. Thank you. Thank you. What do you think? True or false? Kurt, what is it? All right. I had a feeling. Rocky. I heard it true from Emily. And Lauren. It was a violation. Our board member, so let me just see if this works. No, it's not working. It's supposed to get really big, is it true? Our board member is allowed to volunteer in other capacities. Can a board member be on the PTA president? Can you go into a class and read a book? Can you be involved in the school play? What do you think? I'm saying yeses. So why is this problematic? For the people that said it was true, which it was, why is this problematic if being on the PTA is okay? Why is it, what is the distinction that the School Ethics Commission makes in volunteer type cases? Do you know?
I believe it's supervision. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
I believe it's supervision, like your level of involvement. I didn't mean to speak over.
Is that what you were going to say, Caitlin?
No, I was saying an appointment as well. It's a board-appointed role. In other words, approved. Does not have an
No, the board-appointed role is not really the dispositive issue. Lauren was right. The issue is the level of interaction that you have with staff. And so as the School Ethics Commission says, if you're going to be in a position where you have a lot of interaction with staff and students direct, being a assistant football coach or volunteer football coach, a lot of interaction, that's why it's a problem. But being a PTO mom or reading a book in a class or being involved in a car wash, that's totally fine. So there's no bright line test. You look at this issue of level of involvement with the staff and students. I would certainly say, Caitlin, to your point, that if you're a PTO person and you're being approved by the board, you should obviously abstain on yourself and that sort of thing. How about this one? A board member violated Sections B and G of the Act and Sections C, D, F, and J of the Code. Lots of sections alleged to have been violated here. When she picked up a letter from the home of a friend, so this was the friend of a board member, regarding the employee's disciplinary discussion, which was going to take place in exec session, gave it to the BA, asked him to make copies for the board members, didn't give it to the superintendent, and then questioned the superintendent's position regarding the employee's actions in executive session. Is that a problem? Yes. Does anybody think that's okay? All right, well, then we're doing well. Okay. The answer is true. That was a problem. And this was a case called Hutchins. And what the School Ethics Commission said was that if respondent believed that her friend needed assistance, she could have picked up the letter, delivered it to the superintendent as required, and then recused herself from the matter so the board and the superintendent could have discussed the issue without respondent's influence following her direct involvement on a close friend's discipline matter. However, respondent instead advocated on behalf of her friend, questioned the superintendent, who did not receive a copy of the letter. She personally represented her friend's interest in the matter before the board, and even further, the superintendent, who was responsible for making recommendations, and then by disparaging the superintendent's recommendations based upon the superintendent's limited time working at the district. So this was a lot of no-nos taking place in this case. How about this one? A board member violated Section E of the code when she texted a staff member and said, "Did you ever receive a RICE notice," which is the notification that we've talked about before that you have to give to a staff, and we're going to discuss the person in closed session. So she texts a friend who's a teacher, I think, and says, "Did you receive a RICE notice? I could accuse the board president or secretary or chief school administrator of malfeasance if you did not receive the notice and they want to discuss you in executive session." Was that a problem? Yeah, I mean, clearly trying to undermine the superintendent, the rest of the board, private action, the whole 9 yards. How about this one? A board member violated sections A and C of the code when he voted against amending the board agenda to swear in a new member who the board had previously agreed was going to fill a vacant seat. So basically, the board holds interviews at a meeting, and they decide at the end of the meeting, we're going to appoint John Smith at our next meeting, where that's the person we want to fill the vacancy. But they decide their process is they have to amend the agenda at the next meeting to include the person's name, and this person votes against amending the agenda to include that person's name. Does that make sense? So board agrees at the last meeting, this is the person we're going to hire. Somebody says, I make a motion to put John Smith on the agenda so that we can swear him in tonight, and this board member votes against that. And somebody files an ethics complaint against him for voting and kind of trying to obstruct the person being sworn in that night. Is that a problem? What do you think?
No.
No? Why do you think no, Rocky? You shouted that out first. I'll put you on the spot. You put your mic on? Oh, yeah.
You're entitled to still haven't got through my training. I'm doing this through common sense here, but as a board member, you're entitled to make your decision, and if the rest of the board members say yes, it's carried anyway. So
yeah, and you're spot on with that. And there are a lot of ethics cases that are brought against board members for voting on certain things or not voting on certain things. And the School Ethics Commission pretty much universally holds that how you vote is not an ethics violation. And I'll just read briefly from the case. The School Ethics Commission said that board members are permitted to vote in accordance with their beliefs, and as such, it was within respondents' prerogative to vote against amending a meeting agenda, including one regarding swearing in a board member who may not be eligible to serve. And that was the board member's kind of complaint. He said, I don't think this person is eligible. Accordingly, by voting no, respondent did not take board action to effectuate policies and plans without consulting those affected by them or taking action unrelated to the respondent's duty as a board member. Therefore, the School Ethics Commission dismissed that. Couple more. 2 more, I think. Okay, how about this one? Board member owns a spiritware company and volunteers and gives away a lot of his goods to the school. Okay, so here's what this board member does. He owns a company, and the question is, did he violate C of the act? Those are the prohibited acts, the conflict section, when he sent emails to the school principal asking him to send emails to students and families to promote the sale of spiritware from his company, even though he donated the materials and did not profit from the sales. Do you think that was a problem or not a problem? So Rebecca thinks that was a problem. Anybody think that's not a problem? You want to articulate a little bit on that, or?
Say, even though it would be donated, he's still advertising his business and profiting in non-monetary ways.
Yeah, spot on. That's exactly what the school. He says, even though he's volunteering, he's pretty much promoting his business, right? He's getting his name out there. He has an advantage because he's a board member and that sort of thing, and that was a problem. You know, I talked at the beginning in the section about actual conflicts, but there's this appearance of impropriety. It may not pass the smell test, and I kind of think this case falls into that. Final slide, okay? Madison Board of Ed. A board member violated sections D, E, and I of the code when he publicly stated at a board meeting during a discussion about a planned referendum. So the board's thinking about a referendum in this district, and he says publicly, board member, at the dais, I'm going to continue to repeat this loud and clear so the taxpayers can hear this. I encourage our community to vote no on this. I encourage them to come talk to other board members and tell them to back off. Is that okay or is that not okay? Chad's saying not okay. Anybody think it's okay? Why do you think it's not okay, Chad? I'll put you on the spot since you nodded first.
Well, immediately hearing them say to encourage board members to back off is clearly not okay. They're trying to serve some interest.
Okay.
And that's where I'll leave it as for me.
It feels wrong.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to agree with you on that. Does anybody think it was okay, protected speech?
I was going to say, while it seems like it would be in poor taste or ill-advised, I don't know that it would actually constitute a violation, because I'm sure that the First Amendment was broadcasted for that response.
You're correct. And it kind of goes back to the example that I gave before about telling people to vote no. I'm voting no against the budget. In some towns, they actually vote on the budget. You can go out and tell people, if you're a board member, vote no, as long as you're providing accurate information. And this was not a violation. And what the School Ethics Commission said was that the complainant's disagreement with respondent's position regarding facilities maintenance does not render it an ethics violation. Additionally, respondent's support of a position contrary to the opinion of the district administration is not administering the schools, it's not giving direct order, it's not becoming directly involved in administrative functions or activities that are responsibility of school personnel. And it went on to say basically that this was his opinion and it was protected speech, and as long as it was accurate in his mind and not giving confidential information, it was okay. So these cases are hard in terms of sometimes trying to figure out the outcome. So if you are in a situation yourself and you're not sure about what to do, talk to me through the board president. We can always request an advisory opinion. The one time that I had to go to the Ethics Commission, and then I'll sit down, it was a unique case. I represent a school district where an 18-year-old senior got elected to the board. Which was really unique. A little different than Chad. Chad had already graduated, but this was an 18-year-old who got on the board. And the question was, what could this person vote on? Could he vote on his teachers and his students? And just what were the limitations? It was a really unique case. It's not often that an 18-year-old senior gets elected to the Board of Education. And I scratched my head and I said, we better go to the School Ethics Commission for an advisory, because you could read the ethics cases all day long and you're really not going to get a direct answer to that question. And they wrote us a very detailed opinion letter back in terms of the do's and the don'ts. So anybody have any questions, thoughts, concerns? Lee?
Well, I guess a concern. If you could speak into the financial implications that these ethics charges have on a district, the financial burden.
Yes. So the question is, what is the financial burden that these ethics cases have on the district? The answer is they do, because I mentioned before we have insurance. So even though we have insurance, there's a deductible. So the board has a deductible. Barbara would know better than I would, $5,000 or $10,000 on cases. So the first $5,000 or $10,000 are coming out of the board's pocket. The insurance has exclusions too, Lee. So for instance, I'm not even sure I want to say publicly what they are. There's exclusions, so not every case is covered by our insurance. And in those cases, and I've had to handle them representing the board before because it's not covered by insurance, the board is paying me or some other lawyer to defend the whole case. And I have literally seen ethics cases, not my own fees, don't get worried, but that the fees can hit six figures, believe it or not. Because these cases I mentioned before, they first go to the Ethics Commission. If there's going to be a hearing, the Ethics Commission doesn't actually hear cases. They assign them to an administrative law judge, and there's a full trial. And then it goes back to the School Ethics Commission to give the thumbs up or thumbs down, and then they're appealable, and you get the picture. They could be long and protracted. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on to our student representatives report.
Hello. To begin, Student Council is sponsoring a district-wide Wear Yellow #Daniel Strong Day on Wednesday, February 26th. Any donations collected will go towards a gift for Daniel and his family. Assemblyman Mike Inganamort visited Sparta High School last week, where he spoke with Model UN, Student Council, and AP Government classes. We had the opportunity to get to know him both as a Sparta High School graduate and a state representative. We have invited him back for future conferences. Sparta High School Student Council is planning log-off days where everyone does their best to use limited or no electronics, read-in days, school-wide activities, and an intensive leadership training in June for student leaders. The senior class student council is planning a day trip to Six Flags for the senior class. Girls basketball is playing Pope John tomorrow night in the HWS finals. And on the Sparta High School girls basketball team, Molly Chapman just reached her 700th point. on girls basketball. DECA is preparing for their competition coming up soon. Robotics is thriving, and the Model UN Club just went to Washington, D.C. this past weekend.
Thank you so much. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes, please? Thanks, Kurt. Second?
Second.
Thanks, Rocky. Excuse me, one sec.
Yeah, I already checked it. Thanks.
So all in favor? Or, oh, excuse me, discussion first. Okay, all in favor? Okay, any opposed, any abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay, please abstaining. And moving on to our superintendent's report.
Thank you. I would like to start by, but now she's leaving, congratulate our newest Tennessee volunteer. She committed to Tennessee, as you could tell by the sweatshirt. Oh, I should be congratulating Tennessee for getting a great student. All right. All right, something a little different in the superintendent report tonight. From Helen Morgan School, Ms. Bernardo is a library media specialist, and she has tasked me with an activity for the board. So, HMS is continuing its biannual tradition called One Book, One School. For those that may be unfamiliar, One Book, One School is designed to be a community reading initiative in which all of our students and their families read the same book at the same time and pace in the comfort of their own homes. The students are immersed in the book and have many meaningful activities centered around it during the school day. The school gets decorated, there are daily mystery readers, and even family prizes for participation. This time around, the books were generously donated by the Sparta Education Foundation. Although the title remains a mystery until March 3rd, the HMS media staff, led by Stephanie Bernardo and Sue Gaughan, sent some clues about the book. When a whole school reads a book, there is a lot to talk about. A reading adventure awaits. Please open your bag and let us know what you have inside. So we cannot, well, you wouldn't know the title anyway, but the title will not be revealed tonight, but you can open the bag and maybe draw clues as to what the book might be about. This is a bit of a teaser for the One Book, One School initiative.
Should we read them?
Yeah, why not? I don't even know what's in them.
So we'll start at the end with Michelle. Go ahead.
I have a magnifying glass.
I have a Lego bike.
Compass.
A combination lock.
I have a pocket map.
I have an air horn.
You really need
Prove
to
it.
use that during public comment. I have a pass to the national parks.
I have a bookmark with a mountain range.
I have a bike light.
So based on that, we will allow the families at home and the audience to hypothesize what this book might be about. And on March 3rd, be prepared for the unveiling of what book will be read. I have had the fortune of being here for the last time around, and it really is an immersive community event. And I know some of you will be guest readers. I know Ms. Rossi and I will be guest readers. Looking forward to that. So just some clues for the One Book, One School for Helen Morgan School. So thank you for that, Ms. Bernardo. Moving on to honor our retirees appearing on tonight's agenda. We have Angela Feldman, who is a 5th grade teacher at Helen Morgan School. Ms. Feldman has served the district for 28 years. Roseanne Greiner, 6th grade math teacher from Sparta Middle School. Ms. Greiner has served the district for 25 years. Susan LaBelle, 5th grade teacher at Helen Morgan School. Ms. LaBelle has served the district also for 25 years. And Joanne Chupon, the 5th grade teacher at Helen Morgan School. Ms. Chupon has served the district for 26 years. And Mr. Lehman and the admin team will have some big shoes to fill at Helen Morgan with a couple of retirements. Just a quick update on the referendum process. All of the components are still proceeding as discussed previously. You will notice on this evening's agenda that we have amended a proposal from our architect. The original proposal included an optional communications component, and we have decided to move forward with a public relations firm in order to assist with information dissemination to the community leading up to the September vote. Next month's board meeting will include a tentative budget presentation as we continue to keep the community informed on each year's budget. Ms. Decker and our business office staff have been working alongside our administrative team to create another budget that continues to provide a high-level educational experience for our students while keeping our financial responsibilities to our taxpayers in mind. On Tuesday, the governor will give his annual budget address. We will then receive our state aid numbers 2 days later, the following Thursday. That will provide the final piece of information we need to complete our budget, which again, we will present the tentative budget at the March board meeting. And that is my report.
Thank you so much, Dr. Beck. I don't have anything for the board president's report. Any updates I have will be covered at a later portion of the agenda. Oprah, let's see. Can I have a motion to approve the HIB report, please? Thank you, Kurt. Second?
Second.
Thanks, Rocky. Discussion? Okay. Joanne, can we have a roll? Oh my gosh, I did it again. Barbara, can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Collier?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkle? Dr. Martinez?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Ms. Serafino?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
And Ms. Gagnon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Barbara. Moving on to delegate and liaison reports. We have quite a few from what I hear, so I'll kick us off. I just want to announce that through our Ideas Committee, the committee met on February 11th. As always, it was a productive conversation that covered a number of topics, but I'd like to inform the public of one topic in particular. With unanimous support from our Personnel and Policy Committee, during Ideas, we invited our district media specialists to curate revised versions of Policy 2530, Resource Materials, and Policy 9130, Public Complaints and Grievances, in accordance with the newly enacted Freedom to Read law. Considering Sparta's very own media specialists have been selected to help curate sample policies for the state, we believe this is a proactive endeavor that will foster collaboration and compliance with state law. When policy revisions directly impact our district professionals, we believe they deserve to be part of that discussion. So we look forward to updating the community on their progress, hopefully as soon as next month, after our committee has the opportunity to review the proposed changes. Anyone else for?
I have an update. The Sparta Education Foundation, it's an upcoming opportunity and event to support them. Anyone interested can go to the website for information and details, spartaeducationfoundation.org. Your generosity helps fund innovative programs for Sparta students. They're truly helping to shape the future.
Thank you, Rebecca.
I'd also love to jump in for diversity in C3 a little bit. Just to touch on the meeting I had with Ms. Rossi and Ms. Barker earlier this week, or maybe last week. I'm feeling really excited. I know that recently Ms. Barker actually got the opportunity for this new position, especially in terms of diversity, and I think she's really suited for the role. In the meetings we've had, it's very obvious that she's very genuine and she's excited about the work. And when I was hearing her fill in, primarily Rocky, and our new board members about the history of the committee, she's very aware, she has the history, she knows what she's doing and what she wants to do, and I'm really looking forward to the work that we're gonna do. And just some dates to shout out. There is a C3 committee meeting coming up on February 27th, I believe at 7 p.m. And Ms. Rossi, jump in with any details if needed. And additionally, we're going to have a March 3rd meeting with the whole district. Anyone's allowed to come. It's going to be at 11:30 a.m. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the work that we're going to be completing in the future. We have a lot coming up.
I think the only thing I would add to that is there have been some emails that have been sent out, and for anyone who wants to participate, please just respond or reach out to myself or Mrs. Barker so that we are prepared for spacing and servicing everyone who is going to be attending in person. Thank you, Chad.
Okay, so moving on.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, Rocky, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll do the finance real quick.
Oh, no, we're actually going to cover that during the
okay.
finance portion of the agenda, if that's okay.
I have two quick ones.
Sure. Oh,
Caitlin.
I'm sorry, Lauren, go
Oh,
ahead.
no problem. Regarding PTO liaison, I just wanted to invite any of you who did not have fast enough fingers to get a play and win ticket in person. They do still have virtual tickets available, and they're available on Eventbrite. That's for Friday, April 4th. And if you purchase a ticket for just $15, you can go be a part of all the baskets. It's a huge fundraiser for Alpine, and it really helps benefit our other buildings too, because the PTO is very generous and sends monies forward. I also wanted to just report out about Garden State Coalition of Schools. Dr. Beck, Emily, and I had the opportunity to attend the virtual Garden State Coalition of Schools meeting on Wednesday. The meeting featured an educator-legislator conversation with Assemblywoman Rosera Bagoli. I hope I didn't mispronounce her name. She's a lifelong educator and a friend to Garden State Coalition of Schools who represents Essex County. And we appreciated just her candidness as we, fellow superintendents and other boards, discussed just some of the uncertainties of executive orders coming down that may contradict with some of the state laws and mandates that we currently have in place. We also discussed how $27 billion of the state budget does come from federal aid. And so there's just, schools are looking just to plan ahead and potentially mitigate if there's anything that would be different than what we're already doing. I'm trying to think. There was a lot that was discussed. They also addressed some of the task forces regarding teacher evaluations and jump in there, Emily. Teacher evaluations, and also the other part was, I think, looking at the pipeline. There's a teacher pipeline programs, how to support. So a lot of legislative activity that can continue to support teacher pipeline programs as well as state funding. They did also briefly address, speaking of budget, that the State Department of Education notified school districts last Tuesday that the state aid for the 25-26 school year will not decrease by more than 3% of their state aid from the current school year. The Assemblywoman was quick to say that it wouldn't necessarily be unilateral across all districts, but what was promising to me in attendance was that districts that had been using their local share and going to the 2% were less likely to be affected by higher rates of state aid reduction. So that was an encouraging note. And otherwise, we are just continue to be appreciative for the Garden State Coalition as they continue to provide advocacy and provide guidance to legislators as they guide some of the important work that's happening down in Trenton.
So moving on to public comment number 1. Public comments are invited on matters pertaining only to, to action items only at this time. Please state the action item number as well as your name, municipality, and group affiliation if appropriate for the record. Each participant will receive 3 minutes to speak. Once you have had your allotted 3 minutes to speak, you will not be permitted to speak again until public comment number 2. All statements should be directed to me as the presiding officer. The board or administration may or may not respond to any questions or comments after the conclusion of the public participation. Okay, seeing no one for public comment, motion to close?
Motion.
Thanks, Kurt. Second?
Second.
Thanks, Rebecca. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Can I please have a motion to move personnel and policy items 15.1 through 15.30?
Motion.
Thanks, Emily. Second.
Second.
Thanks, Rocky. Discussion.
Just to discuss some things we talked about in committee, along with the policy updates and changes, we're also updating and changing the student rep policy to add the wording, the students reps may participate in board discussions on matters directly impacting the students, including but not limited to the curriculum, educational policy, student rights, and school climate. We also discussed switching out of our policy services and going with NJSBA, but it was only discussion and no decisions were made. And that was pretty much it.
Kurt, I had a question, if I could. Do you know what the cost might be in switching from policymakers?
I do not. Caitlin has it.
Yeah, we're in the process of evaluating it. So one of the main benefits is that the annual subscription fees for Strauss Esme are actually significantly higher than the cost for NJSBA.
Great.
There is an initial one-time fee. However, what the NJSBA offers is the opportunity to split that one-time fee over 2 years, which would almost equate to what we spend annually for the
Okay.
Strauss Esme. So again, it's preliminary discussion. We're starting to entertain whether or not this is something that could be a cost-effective option for our districts. But of course, we want to consider all implications of that. One other thing I want to mention to that point is the Director of Policy at the NJSBA, Kim Gaddy, is willing to meet with our committee to present on that and just answer any questions that we might have. So that's something that we might be open to discussing.
That's great. And one other piece for this, although not part of this committee, I do want to recognize that we have 2 staff members who just received their master's degree. And apologies if I mispronounce any names. We have Arthur Agnor and Jacqueline Pador. Both received their master's degrees.
One last thing I'd like to add to the discussion. I want to commend and thank Chad for joining us in policy and personnel. Chad actually advocated for the student representative policy change, and I think a lot of that stemmed from his direct experience as a former student representative. He saw a need, and he's advocating for the student representative that currently sits in that chair, so I commend you for that and look forward to supporting that. So thanks again for bringing that to us.
And if I may, along those lines, Chad was our first student representative. He was the inaugural when the new policy, the new statute was passed. And when that happened, we did not know how to navigate that, exactly what that role would be. So Chad helped shape that role in the beginning, and it has evolved through time up to the point of now recommending putting that into policy. But also what we're doing is I'm working with other superintendents in the county that have high schools, and we are setting up a training with New Jersey School Boards Association. So New Jersey School Boards Association is going to come in. Actually, we're going to host it here in Sparta at the end of the summer when all new student representatives are in place before the school year starts. School board is going to come in and actually train those students on what it means to be a board member and what their role would be as a student representative.
Great. We're set for roll call.
Ms. Collier?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkle?
Abstain 15.20 and yes to the rest.
Dr. Martinez?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Ms. Serafino?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Ms. Gagnon?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Thank you, Barbara. Moving on to 16, curriculum instruction and special services. May I please have a motion to move items 16.1 through 16.8?
Motion.
Thank you, Chad. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Emily. Discussion.
All right, to discuss some of our curriculum updates. And if some of this sounds a little bit redundant, it kind of is, but it's just a continuation of the work we're doing. So to discuss, and Ms. Rossi's here tonight. Welcome back, Ms. Rossi. To start off, the district's moving forward with the hiring for the response to intervention, the RTI positions that we've been talking about, and the staff selection is underway. At some point, Ms. Rossi, I would love you to touch on that position a little bit because I think it is super valuable in the way you describe it. I cannot describe it. In terms of EduClimber, and in terms of implementation, we have our new system, and what's really fortunate about this program is it's very streamlined and everything is together on one program, and then that goes right into Genesis on the parent side in terms of test scores or intervention plans or STAR scores, et cetera. Now there's a demonstrated need for more staff training, and that's going to be supported through grant funding. I touched on climate and culture a little bit, but just to reiterate, we have a meeting on Tuesday, March 3rd at 11:30 a.m. at the Sparta High School, I believe, Ms. Rossi. If it's not, let me know. But I'm pretty sure it's SHS, and it's going to be to present the findings of our partnership with the St. Elizabeth program in the third year, and in terms of the recommendations they're going to offer us moving forward. And just to touch on this, as always, any finalized surveys will be made available to parents and the community for a 2-week review before any administration to students. So anything you need to do promptly, you'll be able to do, and you'll be aware of anything happening. And just in terms of the budget priorities we've been taking, through prioritizing RTI initiatives and exploring ways to support students' non-academic skills, such as motivation and responsibility. We're doing a lot for our students, and we're doing a lot of it through grant work, so it's not hitting our budget super hard. And future surveys will be funded through Renaissance and potential grant funding.
I would just add to that, if this is
Yeah.
the right time to talk about those positions. And I think it's a great opportunity to give a shout out to so many staff members working hard to help us develop intervention programming at the high school level. That's really not something across the state that is too prevalent for a lot of different reasons. There are different complexities. There are not typical interventionists. Students have schedules packed with mandatory coursework and credit accumulation that they have to acquire. And also supporting their diverse needs, which range from whether it's content-related support or executive functioning supports, behavioral needs. So the two positions that we're looking at filling, which will probably be on the next agenda, that is a continued evolution of the services that we're putting in place and our collective collaboration to monitor those programs is what's helping to drive this continued work. And again, the investment of such a wide range of stakeholders who really believe in providing the right services for kids has really helped this to take off. But those positions are one that helps to oversee and coordinate intervention plans. And the other position that we are developing is student mentorship. So we are looking for staff who have skills and interests in those areas. There'll be training provided so that we're clear about what that mentorship program would look like. And we're also looking to align peer mentors in addition to teacher mentors to provide. One thing we know is connecting students with one adult that they feel connected to, that cares, that can be someone to keep their finger on the pulse of what's going on in their classrooms and how to support them with their studies is something that we know and see through research can be very successful. So it's great work. It's hard work, and I'm just grateful for the team that works together to develop this. And thank you for your support in continuing to evolve these programs and positions. It's great work, so thank you.
Anyone else for discussion? Barbara, may we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Collier?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkle?
Yes.
Dr. Martinez?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Ms. Serafino?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
And Ms. Gagnon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to item 17, finance. First motion to move items 17.1 through 17.9.
Motion.
Thank you. Was that Lauren? Thank you. Lauren, second?
Second.
Thank you, Kurt. Discussion.
All right, here we go. So we were busy. Bus safety, it's been determined from other districts that having the stop arms and the bus sign lighted actually will help and increase safety for our students. So we agreed for the district to go and look and inquire about that. Also, the depot where the buses are needs a little repair. We agreed to ask the town for a quote, and before we proceed. It is bus month, so please, if you have students taking the bus, please be kind to them and wear yellow if you have the opportunity to do that. This I find interesting, the extended school year. We've gotten all of the routes will be handled by internal drivers, which keeps our costs down by not having to contract. Also, the contracted bus routes will be monitored and tracked to make sure if there are any penalties due to us because of lateness. And we will, the district will monitor that and make sure if there's any penalties that we actually get them. Going on to buildings and grounds, the solar program is almost at the end. We have a final shutdown with JCP&L scheduled for February 22nd at the middle and high school, which would be the final check, and then we could start fully using our solar. And during spring break, they're going to be doing lead testing. For the budget, as we've been saying, the budget will be created with the 2% levy cap. The state aid for extraordinary expenses will be increased to about $600,000 for the year 2026. This was a little bit of a shock. The semi program, which is basically program the state allows us to use monies for incidentals when we're dealing with students was dropped from $35,000 to $4,000. So, and there was no explanation. As a precaution of what's going on long-term, the district is going to avoid any long-term leases or contracts, and again, stay with that 2% cap. We have asked to see, we do need a bus and a new truck. Because of market conditions, we have asked that we could lock in the prices on those purchases. Accounting software, we agreed to allow the accounting software to be changed and to start for the fiscal year 2026, which basically allows us to terminate the contract and prepare for that move. Our rating stayed at AA, Standard & Poor's, even though we believed that that was going to be the rating. That has become the rating, which is important for the referendum because it'll keep our borrowing costs low. There was a memorandum of agreement with the bus drivers, which is good because then our bus drivers are under contract and we can keep our cost without having contractors. There was a request for technology purchase of 250 iPads, not to exceed $128,000. That is because the current equipment in the school could not run the applications that we're paying for, so we were losing double. So we agreed to allow for that purchase. I'd like to thank Fidelity Charitable for the $1,000 to help Alpine the yearly maintenance, and to everybody's happiness, there is a food service biosecurity management plan that's been put in place to ensure that if there's any issues, we actually have a standing operating procedure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Collier?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkle? Dr. Martinez?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Ms. Serafino?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
And Ms. Gagnon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to item 18, motion to move, or excuse me, operations. Motion to move item 18.1. Oh, man. Thank you, Kurt. Second?
Second.
Thanks, Rocky. Discussion. You already covered, so any other discussion? Pertinent discussion regarding our biosecurity management plan. Okay, we'll move on. Roll call, please.
Ms. Collier?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkle?
Yes.
Dr. Martinez?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Ms. Serafino?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
And Ms. Gagnon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to 19, old business. Anyone have anything for old business?
I have something, if anyone else does. Okay. I would like to revisit the cell signal boosting technology topic, as I fully intended to last meeting but was not in attendance. As you may or may not recall, I brought this up during new business at the December meeting and did mention I looked forward to, and still do look forward to, working collaboratively with our entire board and our newly elected board members on the issue. For background, early in December, when I inquired with then board president, Mr. Morris, about who would be tasked with supplying the board with health and safety information, he said we would, quote, consider it as it was received. Since that time, we have had multiple experts from across the country, Children's Health Defense and Environmental Health Trust, to be specific, reach out to the Sparta Board of Education, offering their expertise free of charge regarding the many well-documented health and safety concerns regarding the installation of 5G technology, antennas, towers, repeaters, substations, et cetera, on school grounds, all of which have been rejected by our board president on behalf of the board as a whole. It has been relayed to me that we currently have antennas for radio and cell signals at Mohawk Ave School and Sparta High School respectively, whose install predates any current board members. Maybe Kurt, I'm not sure. This doesn't mean we need to consider collecting revenue through the installation of 4 to 5 antennas or refrigerator-sized units. How can we put a price tag on student and staff health and safety? Across the country and locally, school districts struggle with breaking these leases, these contractual leases, as it's not uncommon for the contracts to span approximately 30 years in some cases, and they're nearly impossible to back out of once they're signed. This is why I keep revisiting it. As elected officials, we have due diligence to protect student and staff safety. How can we as a board even consider any potential pros, which would be monetary, in the face of such glaring cons, very well documented health and safety concerns? The crux of the issue here is that I do not believe we should leave such a huge safety concern unaddressed by simply just putting it off until we wait for a vendor reply, which to my knowledge, we have not received any further feedback since November. I really want to urge us to work together, to put aside differences, and to consider researching this proactively as a 9-person board. It was welcome and previously undisclosed news to me that a majority of the board, if not all, does not support cell towers on school grounds. That's amazing. I would like to open up for discussion and hear how the other board members, specifically the newer ones who haven't had a chance to weigh in at previous meetings, how do they feel about 5G signal boosting technology, not just towers, as data we were provided shows concerns with antennas as well. So in the interest of operating with transparency and educating ourselves as well as the public, I'd like to get an idea for who would be on board with being amenable to inviting the aforementioned experts to a future meeting to just let us be knowledgeable on the topic. Let's discuss it. Let's learn what the terminologies are that we're even speaking about, because you can't really debate a topic when you can't agree on the terminology you're discussing. So would anyone be in support of inviting in experts? Would anyone be opposed to it? I look forward to discussion.
I mean, you're inviting experts in to speak on something that we don't even know what we're talking about. I mean, we have no idea what these vendors want to do. We have no idea what kind of equipment they want to use.
I believe it was stated that it was 4 to 5 antennas and a refrigerator-sized cabinet.
Yeah, but we don't know what those antennas transmit. We don't know how many
That's where
micro millers come off those.
That's why
We
it would be
have no
great to hear.
idea.
That's why it would be great to hear from people who do know.
Well, these experts will not know.
Well,
They're
a
not
car
the-
is a
they're not the
car, an
ones
antenna is an
supplying us-
antenna.
They're not the ones supplying us with the equipment. They don't know what these people want to do.
Are you suggesting that certain
I'm going to ask everyone to
5G
remain
technology-
orderly while we have this discussion. We're not going to let it turn into a full-fledged debate, but I will absolutely say that everyone will have a chance to speak on this right now. I think what the point that I totally agree with Kurt, to make it very clear in terms of timeline, I believe it was it was late, it might have been December, but either way, Barbara has submitted a list of questions to the vendor, including what is the equipment you wish to install? 4 to 5 antennas do not give us an answer at all in terms of whether it's 5G, what type of equipment are we even talking about. So the issue that I've had is that when we're receiving, to say the board was being reached out to, yes, we did have a few experts all over the country. How they came to learn about this, I'm not sure. Reach out. Those discussions range from anything from 5G cell tower installations on our school buildings to how Bluetooth wireless speakers cause low sperm counts. So there's a very wide range of information that we're receiving from those experts, and it seems like the arguments that are being proposed to us are kind of all over the place. And I think to Kurt's point, until we know what the equipment is, I am totally willing to have anyone come in, including the vendor and including an expert in a given field, come in and speak to the potential of, other side or other opinion. I'm fine with that. We're not there yet. And that's been my point all along. And that's what I'm going to continue to reiterate when we're talking about, again, this conversation this narrative has shifted from 5G cell towers to 5G equipment. You had mentioned, I know a constituent raised this week, the radio antenna that is on Mohawk Ave relates to transportation.
Correct.
Which affects our students.
Radio, yes.
Right, but when you say antenna, I don't know
said
if that's
radio.
included in that.
I said radio.
So, and same thing with the high school. We have equipment that would affect our police department. When we talk pros and cons, we're talking about pros being student safety. So caution us to tread lightly. We absolutely can go around the room and hear how everyone feels. I just don't, what are we asking? How do you feel about cell towers? How do you feel about cellular equipment? How do you feel about cell phones? What are we asking?
Before I lose my thought, because you brought up something very interesting, and I'm appreciative of the fact that you just communicated it at the table. You said that Ms. Decker submitted requests for information from the vendor. How did you become aware of that information, and why didn't you share it as president with the entire board?
The last time that was raised was the result of a finance committee meeting where we all had the discussion. That was originally raised before this board was even present. So I inquired, and we are under the assumption that the last update we received, Ms. Decker explained that she had relayed those questions and we were still awaiting an answer. That's what's reflected in Rocky's minutes
Right,
as well.
so
We're awaiting an answer.
Sure, great, thank you. So I was trying to just be aware of
So
here.
can I ask again, what question would you like each board member to answer regarding this topic? How do you feel about cell towers? How do you feel about 5G?
Okay,
How do you feel?
So to
be
back it up
clear?
a little bit, you keep using terminology, and I'd like to reiterate that when I first mentioned this during new business in December, you can go back and look at the minutes, I did not use the term cell tower. I used every single all-encompassing term along with cell tower. I said cell towers, repeaters, boosters, 5G, antennas. I was very careful in my words, and the semantics games are getting old. The community has a right to understand what is being installed and what currently exists on school property. And I would like to see if we could just have a conversation about that. I don't know why there is this attempt to stonewall.
I don't think anyone's trying to stonewall anything. Like, I'm not for putting something that's on a building that's going to fry a kid's brain, but we don't know what they're looking to put on these buildings. So how can you have a discussion about something we don't know anything about?
An antenna is an antenna, but if you'd like to suggest that certain antennas from certain vendors are different than other ones, that's just not what the technology and the science suggests. But I appreciate your ignorance to it, and I think that's where an expert would help weigh in.
There's
Let's
not
start with
really any
insulting.
ignorance. It's all how you look things up on the internet. You can put anything in Google and get the research back that you're looking for.
I'm aware.
So until we have these answers, there's nothing really to talk about.
Unless anyone has something pertinent they'd like to add, I don't know, would anyone like to weigh in before I think, again, if someone feels inclined to
just
answer,
wanna-
go ahead.
I just want to, so I'm a technical person, so I went and, so this is information that's available on antennasearch.com if anybody's interested. The two, I'm going to use the two technical devices that are on the schools are, one is called a Class MO, which is a mobile repeater, which is in the frequency of 450, which basically allows input and output from a mobile radio, like one that's in a police car or transportation, which has been there for a very long, long time. It has nothing to do with 5G or anything like that. The other one is what they call an FB, which is a Class FB. Again, you can find this on antennasearch.com. That's just basically the mobile antenna for where the radio would communicate to, and the repeater just can be used to repeat. So I'm not sure where the concern is. These are things that are actually all over the township right now if you go look. I personally think this is a waste of time because we haven't gotten anything from the vendor. I'd rather be talking about our math scores, where our English scores are great, but we need to get better math scores. And how are we going to use all of this effort into something that's going to help the students? I appreciate your concern, but there's nothing tabled. There's no revenue or anything. The vendor even hasn't gotten back yet. And I'm sure we're all going to be very transparent when the vendor comes back, and we'll decide. But right now, we're trying to argue something that doesn't even exist. But we know our math scores have to get better. And those are things that I'd rather be worried about than bringing an expert on an antenna. I want somebody who's an expert on math scores to tell us how we're going to get our math loss back up. That's what I'm concerned about.
Rocky, I appreciate you weighing in. I think it's possible that as a board, we can manage a couple of issues simultaneously as we have for decades. The only reason I clarified what we currently have installed is because the board president brought it up last month at a meeting and said we possibly have technology, and people are concerned, and it is my job to make sure that relevant and accurate information is discussed at the board table. So I was not personally harping on what already existed. I was clarifying that we don't possibly have, or what we do have. That's
And
all.
just to follow up again, because we're going to end it here. When I said that there is a possibility, the exact equipment that you mentioned is the equipment that I was referring to. I didn't know what the purpose was, but I did hear that we had equipment for our police before that meeting. I did hear that we had equipment required for our transportation. I was not insinuating that there was 5G equipment that exists. I merely said it's a possibility. We are supplementing existing equipment, which if we were to proceed, is exactly what we would be doing. There are different types of equipment, and that was my entire point.
Okay.
So again, I think we are at a point where we can move on. I agree
Well,
with
I did
Rocky.
have something else to add,
Well, you
if
can,
you can
hold
want-
on one second, if I can just say, I do think that I completely agree with Rocky. I think that we've spent way too much time debating hypotheticals. I would love a robust discussion and debate when the time is right. Let's wait until we know what equipment we're going to debate over. That's my proposal.
Okay, the radio antennas that we have installed on the two buildings are not what the vendor was proposing to us. Just to be clear, they're not similar technologies. As you just discussed, that's for boosting radio signals, and that was not the intent of the proposal, the verbal proposal. I'm more than happy to table it. Obviously, I'm outnumbered at this table, and I welcome that. It's just the nature of the beast. We speak for ourselves, and we operate as a board of majority. And so if the other members who haven't chimed in yet sit in their elected seats and would not like to weigh in on a topic that affects the health and safety of the students they were elected to serve, then have at it.
Well, I would like to weigh in.
Michelle,
because
can you pull your microphone a little closer? Sorry,
Sure.
can't hear you.
I appreciate the conversation, and I appreciate your care and concern over an important conversation. And I am extremely supportive of experts providing information. And I think as I'm listening to all of this, I think that it's important to have a starting place. And I think the starting place so that we could be informed most accurately with what we are working with, what we do have, and what we are looking at, and then be able to widen that into other areas, as you mentioned, because I do think that it's important. I do, because we do need to make informed decisions. But I do think that we have to have a starting place. That's my
Thank you. I
thoughts.
appreciate your respectful dialogue, Michelle. I really do. It's nice to see it. I guess the issue for me comes back to the fact that these contracts are not like other contracts, and that the leases do span 30 years. The board turnover, as we have all seen in the past 4 years, 5 years, has been staggering. So it's very likely that if we were to punt this down the road and not do our due diligence and investigate and at least make the public aware of what's been on the table, that it can easily just kind of go by the wayside, and in 4 years, 5 years, we have a whole different board, which is fine, and that's the way the process works. But I don't see the harm in at least becoming more aware. I mean, there's nothing wrong with learning. And if anyone has experts to the contrary that show that this technology is wonderful and healthy and safe, then I would welcome that as well. I'm not looking to steamroll my personal beliefs. I just think that we need to be eyes wide open when we are discussing things that cause cancer. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, it's well documented. I didn't just Google it. We were provided tons and tons and tons of information through emails that were just kind of sloughed off. And I find that to be kind of egregious.
I find it insulting to say they were sloughed off when I read through every single report, detailed reports, sometimes multiple pages, and you can obviously know that when I can attest to the fact that there's allegations that, again, a wireless speaker causes low sperm count. That was in that report that you sent. That was very detailed. I have read everything that you have sent over thoroughly. The problem remains that it's very inconsistent in terms of what we are hearing. It's a wide array of information. And to Michelle's point, I'd rather us have a starting point, that we allow that to be the place where we begin, and then we expand from there.
I appreciate that.
I'm totally willing to have, an alternate view expert come in and kind of, again, a vendor might have
Yeah.
intentions that won't disclose
Correct.
certain information. I understand that completely.
And I appreciate that.
Without interrupting, I understand that completely, and I agree with you. And I hope you hear that. I agree with you that we need to have various opinions, but we need to wait until it's the right time for that. We can have an endless amount, we can have 50 experts come in here with 50 different opinions on 50 different matters regarding safety. But the point is we need it to be focused, and I
Okay.
don't think we're there yet.
Okay,
And
and
the
I
community will
appreciate
also
it.
be completely informed throughout, as they have been. That will not change.
I appreciate that. And I just appreciate the fact that maybe you would consider as board president, before responding to emails, maybe just getting a pulse from your membership. Let's see where the other 8 people feel before you reply on our behalf, because that's important.
We'd have to do that at a meeting, obviously. I'd be very concerned about doing it. I'm not saying you're suggesting it, but we couldn't do that by email. Because,
I guess what I'm saying is,
yeah.
that's why I'm bringing it up at the table.
Yeah,
Because
this
it
is
would
the
not-
appropriate forum to
Correct,
do
and
that.
that's why I'm bringing it up at the table, not to harp on things, but because we can't, open public meetings, we cannot do these things as a committee. We don't have committees as a whole. We don't have a board situation where we can discuss this, and we can't discuss it in executive session because it's not attorney-client privilege. So I'm bringing it to the table to try to get a pulse of my fellow board members, since our board president neglected to do that. That's all. So
I'd like
I don't know if I need to make a
not
motion.
insult me like that, if that's possible.
Motion.
A motion, what are we motioning for what?
I don't know. I'm trying to end it.
You're trying to end it, okay, got it.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to see where the board stands. If we can get a straw poll, see if we have majority, but that would be,
That's not really a motion.
okay, so if you could help me with the wording, since you're the lawyer.
You're just asking for the board's opinion on the issue, so I guess everybody was free
A
to weigh in.
yes or a no, or we
Well, I
can't
guess
do
everybody
that?
was free to weigh in on whether we want to have an expert come in the future based on the information that we gleaned from the.
So yes, I would like to make a motion to invite in an experts.
At what point in time?
We could see what the earliest, at the next available board meeting.
Oh, so you want to do it now before we get the information?
Before we get the
Because
vendor.
I think what I was hearing from some people was that people are not adverse to having experts come in once we get the information back that we're seeking from the prospective vendor. And at that time, when we have a better handle on what it is, I didn't hear really any opposition at the table to bring him in, but I think some people felt, and I don't want to speak for anybody, but that it was premature to do it now. So are
Okay.
you suggesting we do it now?
So I guess the conundrum here is that likely the vendor has been spooked off from the publicity and, or whatnot. I don't know. We haven't heard from the vendor, so if they don't come back to us, then we just leave this. I mean, that's my concern.
I don't know whether we've heard from the vendor or not. I'm not sure
I don't
about
think
that.
we've heard from them yet. And
Yeah.
really, I think I can speak for everybody. When a vendor does come to us, or if they do respond, and they say, well, this is what we're going to put up there, A, B, C, and D, that is when we bring those experts in. So I don't want to have it waste an expert's time to come in to speak on something that might not even be irrelevant to us.
I think it's just being proactive. I don't think it's a waste of time to educate ourselves as a board on, listen, this technology is not going anywhere. People don't want it in their neighborhoods, they don't want it on their houses, so they come to the school boards. This is what they're doing across the country. It's a huge moneymaker for schools, huge, not really huge, but it's a huge moneymaker. And it, it drops property values. That's the discussion I was looking to have. So I'm glad thank you for the 2 new board members who did weigh in. I appreciate it.
So if I could just speak up for a minute, the company, Verizon, is supposed to,
It's your microphone?
yeah, it is. So they are supposed to get back to us. They did not have everything for the last, as we reported out, the last committee meeting that we met in finance in February. They know the mid-date of the next board meeting or the next committee meeting, and they are supposed to have drawings proposed as well as information and responses to everything that was submitted to them, which was a collection of a number of board members that had concerns. But we have received nothing from them yet, nothing.
Ms. Decker, would you clarify who they was? Because I think your mic was not on when you mentioned it.
So the company.
The company,
Verizon.
yes, Verizon, thank you.
Yes.
I'm sure they have a vested interest in the health and safety of our kids.
If I can just recap and just say, I appreciate the consensus, it seems, of bringing in experts. I do see the difference of opinion when it comes to whether we do this proactively or after a proposal is reached. I do appreciate the idea of having that proposal information, but I can also fully appreciate what Ms. Michael is is bringing forward to us as far as, when we look at other policies, for instance, we're saying, hey, this doesn't come into effect until December. However, we're going to proactively look at a policy and look at revising that. So I think when it comes down to, we're committed to every student every day. Sparta is a district that doesn't just look at academics. And even though yes, absolutely, test scores, student achievement, that's what we're all sitting, student achievement, not just test scores, what we're all sitting here for. But we are a district that has been, if I dare say, blessed with the ability to support the whole child. And we've made a commitment to support the whole child, and that includes the health and safety to our staff and students. And as we continue to have more technology in our classrooms and more technology in our homes and in our pockets, I think it is important. We have a referendum coming, and there's enhancements to buildings. That doesn't mean that has anything to do with this, but I'm saying just as we're considering technology purchasing and having the right infrastructure, I think I do really appreciate that everyone is supportive of having experts come in, whether the timing is before or after. So thank you for bringing it up.
And if I could just jump in quickly, I just want to make a distinction from what I understand is the thinking. When you were speaking, Lauren, it almost made it seem like you were describing us as being proactive versus reactive. And I think this is more about being a little too proactive versus being pragmatic. Being pragmatic is doing the right thing at the right time. And I think that's what Kurt has been harping on and what Caitlin has been harping on. And I think it is about doing the right thing at the right time. And I think that if we are a little too proactive, it's like what Mark said at the last meeting, when it's like if we're trying to establish a policy or start considering a policy, and then we might have a first reading or create a draft, and then Verizon comes back with their specs, and we totally miss the mark. It would set us up to kind of waste a whole month of our time. So I think it is important to think about being pragmatic versus proactive versus being reactive, and that I don't think we're being reactive.
Can I add something? I totally would want to hear from experts. I'm totally on board with that. And going along with what Chad said, I think it's important to at least have that information and maybe ask those experts to come in to say, this is what Verizon proposed. Can you tell us about this and other things as well? So we can have our scope, but make sure we are focusing on what we are going to be dealing with as well. I think Lee, you bring up a great point of we should be well informed in a lot of different areas, right? Because this might not be the first proposal. There might be other proposals, right? And we'll be in the same area. I just think we need to make sure we are talking about what we're going to talk about with this company, and then open it up more from there as well. But make sure we at least that is definitely, we've called the right person who's going to talk about what we need to debate.
Thank you, Emily, for weighing in, and Lauren and Chad as well. And to that point, definitely, now that we know that the vendor is Verizon, I think that it's safe to say that their technology that they employ nationwide on schools and antennas, whatever you want to say, I think it's safe to say that that technology is not variable within their business model. It's like a car is a car, a 5G antenna is a 5G antenna, so I don't think we need to wait on a specific model in order to be considered being too proactive. So that's my opinion on that matter. We are proactively considering the Freedom to Read bill, which has passed, and that's great. And we have until December 2025 to look at implementing that new policy, and we're looking to do that in as soon as 2 months. So it seems a little bit hypocritical.
Just real quick to speak to that, and we're going to move along, because Lauren had also mentioned or referenced that, and now you have. There was a law that was passed, and it is incumbent upon us to make sure that we're in compliance with that. It's important. And also, our media specialists have been recognized to help curate draft policy for the state.
I'm aware.
So why we wouldn't foster the collaboration with them on a local level, unless maybe we have a problem with the law.
That's not what I was saying.
My point is it's not hypocritical. It's totally appropriate, and it's actually our role.
I was talking about
We're gonna move on.
timeliness.
What-
We have until December 2025 to implement the new policy, and I completely support
So we want
our-
to be proactive
I'm
with cell
speaking now.
towers, but not
I
with that.
really,
Okay, we're
no,
moving on now.
I
We're moving
support
on.
our, are you trying to stifle me? I support our staff for weighing in and curating these policies. I truly do. I think that's wonderful. I'm just saying that we have until December 2025, and if we're talking about revisiting policies, let's just make sure that we're doing it across the board.
Okay, great. Are we ready to move on? Does anyone else have anything
I
they'd
just
like to
wanted
weigh
to
in?
share one thing, if that's
Oh,
okay,
sure,
about the
Kat.
math scores. screeners, which I'm so glad that you brought up because that's a really important topic that we've been spending a lot of time on. And I don't know if it was mentioned, but it did come up in our curriculum meeting. So I think it's worth mentioning that we do use universal screeners multiple times a year to check in on student growth. So we did just have our winter screener that we met as data teams to unpack that data. Every school in the district is making adequate to high levels of progress, which is exciting, but we're still trying to unpack. We typically, after the last few years, have a large population of students who continue to fall at approaching standards on our standardized tests, which is different information than we see on our universal screening tools. So we did put a math committee together, an exploration team, to look at how some of the other districts, there are several like us that are just taking certain grade levels or taking longer to bounce back as expected. And that's kind of a universal understanding that's come out of this. But there are some districts that are bouncing back faster. And so we're going to connect with them and see if there's any secrets to things that they're doing or practices or resources. So I just wanted to speak to that a little bit because that is a big priority for us. So thank you.
Ms. Ross.
Thank you for that breath of fresh air. We needed it. Okay, so we're moving on. Anyone else for anything for old business? No, we're okay. Okay, new business. Anyone have anything for new business?
New business.
Go for it.
Approximately a year ago, ethics charges was filed against myself and several other board members by a Heather Stout Mason. So ultimately, it was dismissed with no probable cause. So in the future, hopefully, it's ironic that we had the ethics tonight. So maybe before anyone files ethics complaints, you maybe watch this meeting over, second guess before having our district pay thousands of dollars for unfounded.
We're not going to open a back and forth with constituents. I will say it behooves us, and we've talked about that exact incident, which I appreciate, and it behooves us to even try to avoid the appearance of impropriety. However, congratulations on the ethics results and being ethical. Very good. Did you want to continue? Did you have more on that? Or
No, that was
okay.
it.
All right, thank you. Anyone else for new business? No. Okay, moving on to public comment number 2. The board uses the second public comment period to invite comments on all matters pertaining to the school district. Please state your name, municipality, and group affiliation, if appropriate, for the record. Each participant will receive 3 minutes to speak. Once you have had your allotted 3 minutes to speak, you will not be permitted to speak again. All statements should be directed to me as the presiding officer. The board or administration may or may not respond to any questions or comments after the conclusion of public participation.
Hello. Patty, Sparta. I was not planning to speak tonight, so my notes are a little rough, but during the back and forth, I did take a few notes. So the subject of student safety, obviously we're all very concerned about our kids, our community, but I just wanted to redirect because I think what we're talking about with the 5G towers, while some may think it's important, the focus, let's redirect the focus to a real and urgent, real and urgent threat, which is gun violence in schools. I am a local group member of our Moms Demand Action chapter here in Sussex County, and I just wanted to read off a few facts. So there's no credible scientific evidence that 5G poses a health risk to students or staff. In fact, the World Health Organization and the Federal Communications Commission have confirmed that 5G technology operates within safe exposure limits. Meanwhile, firearms are the leading cause of death for children and teens. And instead of debating unproven risks, we should be addressing the real and immediate threat to our students, which is gun violence. We have spoken to multiple people across the county, multiple schools, about getting our Be Smart program. I think Dr. Beck, you were included on some of those emails in schools to talk about safe storage. And I don't know if anybody's seen the local news, but just recently we had a resident in Sparta who was arrested, and 17 unregistered guns were found in his residence. And he has 2 children in this district who are very young. Any one of those guns, one which was loaded and accessible to his children, could have been taken to school, could have been taken to a play date, could have been fired off at any time accidentally at home. So while I appreciate us going back and forth about, illegitimate concerns like 5G cell towers that are everywhere across the country, and there hasn't been any recorded death because of them. We are talking about a real threat in our community right now, and nobody has brought it up, which I just felt like I had to talk about this today. What's my time limit? Am I almost there? Yeah, 30 seconds. Okay, because I can't read with these on. So just a few more stats. In 2023 alone, there were 348 school shootings in the U.S. More than 356,000 students have experienced gun violence in schools since Columbine in 1999, and the psychological impact is immense. 57% of teens worry about a school shooting happening every day. Our kids are going to school and having to be really tormented every time a lockdown drill happens. I have 3 kids in this school, and they come home and ask me what would happen. So I would just like to redirect, and maybe we can focus on something that actually matters in our community, like gun violence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. I'm Dana Galino, 26 Valley View Trail. I'm actually going to be talking about the budget, but before I do, I'm just going to say that I find it highly insulting for one board member to insinuate that other board members do not care about the health and welfare of their children just because they aren't weighing in on a topic you feel like discussing right now. Anyway, regarding the budget, I believe that somebody mentioned the budget before, Ms. Gagnon, I think it was you. And I listened to Rocky's finance report, and I didn't hear this mentioned. So I figured I'd make my annual request tonight. I've made this request for 4 years now, and I believe it has not been done for 5, maybe even 6 years. But here goes. I respectfully request that the board bid out the legal contract at this time. Refusing to do so is fiscally irresponsible to our district and our taxpayers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Galino. And anyone else?
Scott Knoll from Sparta. First, I want to thank all of you for your commitment to our town and our community. I know that this is hard, and listening to us is hard. You got a million things going on. So as I say this, I'm going to ask you to do more work, but I appreciate the work that you're already doing. I'm here tonight to ask about the potential financial impact of to the school board due to Doge and Elon Musk. It's safe to assume Sparta might have delays or even elimination of federal funds. Chad talked about grant money, right? Like the source of those grants could go away. There was another program mentioned. It was a state program, but other funding comes from other programs, and it's likely that those will be slowed, reduced, or, go bye-bye. So my question is, or my request is, that you guys look at what the potential impact is and what that would mean, because it could be nothing, or it could mean disaster, and I don't know, right? And I think the responsible thing to do is to check it out. When I was thinking about it, I thought there's basically 4 areas. One I already mentioned, direct loss of financial support, specifically to programs and grants. Another is the loss of tax revenue, which funds most of us, due to businesses being impacted that support the tax base because the work they do is no longer available, right? And we have a community like Picatinny down the road, right? That's potentially paying for a lot of people, which is the other one. People employed by the government, they lose their jobs. That's a potential impact. And then the last one is the loss of agencies that support our schools, that provide things, and now those aren't available, so we have to pay for some outside source to get them. Again, I don't know exactly what those are, but it seems imminent to me. So if you can look at that and get back to us so we understand what the potential impacts are, what our exposure is. I think that that's prudent. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Kim Knoll, and what a wonderful night to be here, right? It's so beautiful to see how great our teachers are, what a lovely community we have, and obviously we want to keep that going. And I feel like that Dodge and Elon Musk and what's happening with the potentially getting rid of the Department of Education is very concerning. Also concerning, especially to folks in our LGBTQIA+ community, is the direct attacks by the federal government on folks in that community. I know that might seem like, oh, they're far away, they're down in Washington, D.C. I don't think their intention is to stay in Washington, D.C. and not impact us in our states. So some of the things that maybe folks aren't considering about the Department of Education and what they do is the impact and the funding that they provide to folks with disabilities. They are one of the main groups that do Title I, and so we have a lot of students in this district who use Title I services, have IEPs, have 504s, et cetera. So I'm very concerned about what might happen to that funding and those students also. Finally, I'd also just like to mention that Pell Grants. If anybody has a student who's going to go away to college eventually, if you don't have money sitting in the bank for that to happen, Pell Grants could completely go away. Completely recognize that's not something necessarily you could do something directly about, but just something that we need to be thinking about for our students. There's potentially a lot fewer people that will be eligible to go to college if they can't get a grant. Really concerned about equity and making sure that we remain a district who accepts all, including the LGBTQ+ community. And I know this board will continue to stay informed. I heard that some folks are already considering what's coming down from the federal government at this point. So I welcome all the discussions, potential impacts. I'm sure there's things that I can't even imagine are potential impacts. So thank you so much, and please keep us informed.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. How are you? I'm Michelle Patricchio, 2 Evergreen Place in Sparta. I'm here tonight to represent the Sparta baseball program as a parent and as a Booster Club member. During my tenure with the baseball Booster Club, there have been several requests made to improve the program, the grounds, and the equipment. First and foremost, let me just address the condition of Feldner's Field. From afar, it looks beautiful. All right, but there are a lot of problems with the field itself. There are dangers within the infield because it is clumpy, hard as a rock. All right, it needs regrading, it needs new soil, it needs new dirt, and it needs to, all of that needs to be implemented in order to prevent danger or further injury to infielders playing, just playing the sport. Bad hops from the hardened clay have caused numerous injuries to our players. In the outfield, there are ruts in the outfield, in the grass. Again, problems with the field itself. So again, it looks beautiful from afar, but it's really struggling. Ultimately, the drainage issues from the field there's a lot of problems after severe and heavy rains. One storm puts the field out of commission for the whole week. So it really affects the season and their players. But that's one of the major problems that we're seeing. And to our disappointment, these requests have been declined over the years because this is like what you guys have said. The can gets kicked down the line and it doesn't get addressed. But I do want to make mention of two things that were requested recently to help alleviate some of the problems that the program has faced. A home plate cover was requested to help mitigate the puddling issues that occur during wet weather. The cover would help salvage the field for game time and practice sessions. It is a temporary fix to an ongoing problem that field location has had over the years. In my time on the booster board and as a parent of a player, I've never seen a home plate cover. It only came to my attention that there was a cover and it was destroyed by rodents in storage and was never replaced. Another request has been made to help prevent the amount of foul balls lost to the wetlands during practice primarily. Naturally, foul balls are part of the sport. The dense brush, standing murky water, and excessive tick population makes it unsafe and impossible to retrieve the foul balls. A request that was made to purchase a batting cage, also known as a turtle, is a portable cage that is moved on and off the field during batting practices to prevent foul balls from leaving the field. In the past, the Booster Club has assisted the program to the best of its ability. About 4 years ago, the boosters, do you mind if I finished?
Yeah, absolutely. Take as long as you need.
Thank you. About 4 years ago, the booster purchased a pitching machine. And before that, the Booster Club recruited the help of a local business to donate the scoreboard. Traditionally, booster clubs are intended to support teams by providing fundraisers for events and gatherings such as team dinners, end of the year banquets, and senior night. The booster is also intended to encourage team members to participate in community outreach. For instance, our baseball players will be volunteering their time to support the Sparta Little League's opening day. We're collaborating to run clinics for the 8th graders to help them prepare for entering high school baseball, and we're volunteering to attend their Little League baseball games to help teams warm up. So this is what all of our players are going to be doing in community outreach. Ultimately, the booster's responsibility is to promote sportsmanship, help build and maintain a reputable program, and fully support student-athlete recognition. As much as we would like to fund the aforementioned items, we just cannot cover the entire cost. Nor will we set a precedent that the Booster Club becomes the sole responsible party for such purchases. However, we have contacted the district administration proposing to work with them to reach a resolution, and after several attempts, I have not received any communication since February 3rd. The season is fast approaching with March 10th tryouts. I have 3 quotes for different vendors available. 2 out of the 3 are vendors that work directly with the high school athletic department. According to the December 2024 board secretary's report under page 8, under the school-sponsored athletics category, there was an available balance of $14,066.96 for the supplies and materials line, as well as $19,669.50 for the line item other objects. My request today is to ask the district to work with the Booster Club to make these purchases. We ask that you review the funds available and make a concession to work with us. We ask for communication and collaboration. If assembly for the cage is a concern, I can assure you that there will be several parents, players, and coaches that will be readily available to volunteer their time to assemble it. If concerned about destruction of another home plate cover, the Booster Club will be happy to provide a storage bin to prevent rodents from getting to it again. We will also provide sandbags as needed to keep the cover secure during harsh weather. If you would like to reach out to me at any time, I'd be very happy to give you my direct communication, my direct information, contact information, but I do really appreciate your time, and I do hope that you take this information into consideration. I've also provided here the 3 quotes. I only have 5 copies, but I'd like to leave them with you.
Yeah, just if you could leave them with our business
great.
administrator, that would be wonderful.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for being patient.
Hi, everybody. How are you? My name is Joe Daly, 37 Timberline Drive. I've been a volunteer baseball coach for the last 10 years. I coached at the high school level with Sam Slobodin for a number of years. Michelle did a great job. I'm not going to talk about that. I wanted to talk to you guys. I want to talk to Kurt and tell him thank you very much. I'm also a wealth advisor in town, and it's been my mission to try to educate kids on personal finance. So I was really lucky enough. I hunted Kurt down. He got me in touch with Ed. I stalked Ed for about 2 months, and then we finally made it happen. I got a chance to teach the business classes at the high school for 2 days, and having kids understand how important it is personal finance at the ages of 16, 17, 18 years old. That makes a lifetime of changes in someone's life. Try to educate them on kids who work part-time who make $14,800 a year do not pay federal income taxes if they're living with their parents. Imagine what happens when that money is put into a Roth IRA over a course of 45 years. So I would love to work with the Board of Ed and help work on a curriculum to educate these kids on personal finance. I know there's something going down the path of they're doing something in school right now, and it's not where it needs to be. So I want to thank you. I really appreciate it, and it was a really good day. So again, my name is Joe Daly. I'm here to help. I'm here to volunteer anything you need to do. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to bring some joy. I'm going to bring it. Good evening. My name is Angela DeLucia, and I am the very proud president of the Sussex County Education Association and Sparta Education Association. Once again, we would like to congratulate all the governors, educators, and education support professionals of the year. Tonight's recognition is just a glimpse at the dedication and hard work of our members. Last week, we marked the 100th day of school. We are more than halfway through this school year. Our elementary schools celebrated this milestone by encouraging students to demonstrate their favorite interpretation of the number 100. They also practiced random acts of kindness in a week dedicated to building relationships and community. We all know that these skills will serve our students well beyond that week. Librarian media specialist Stephanie Bernardo is busy preparing Helen Morgan's program, One Book, One School Experience. I, for one, cannot wait to see who will be the mystery readers. Maybe you'll see some familiar faces. David Gorecki and Mark Miola are leading our SMS and SHS robotics team, both teams, into robotics history. Both teams are setting and breaking records across New Jersey. Doug Krause, Pascal Byrne, and Jennifer Dow are organizing their next trip to Quebec for middle and high school students. Emily Scott is in the planning stages of an educational excursion to Japan. Our members want to ensure that instruction travels far beyond the traditional walls of the classroom. Katie Sakowitz has stepped up to advise the new dance club. See what I did there? Right? Okay. The club has hosted a fundraiser to help aid children's cancer research and hopes to achieve their goal of a dance-a-thon. The club encourages students' creativity and movement without the stress of competition. DECA is preparing for its next round at their conference. Sandy Chiappini, Will Anderson, and Craig Merrill, and the students are ready to take on Atlantic City. Last but not least, Sparta High School Musical Theater will be performing The Little Shop of Horrors on March 14th, 15th, and 16th, with a preview for schools and senior citizens on the 13th. And we would be remiss if we did not publicly thank those who helped the staff prepare. With the strategic prowess of the maintenance staff and SHS custodial team, we would not have been able to create the magic of the SHS Spring Musical. We hope to see everyone there. February is a very short month, but packed with many accomplishments. We look forward to March and many great things to report.
Hi, Jenny Derricks. Dr. Beck, I'm actually asking for some discussion, not here. As a member of the Municipal Alliance, you and I have both served on the Municipal Alliance for years, as well as a number of your staff and administrators. The Town Council is considering back and forth the introduction of retail cannabis in Sparta. And in part of their discussions, they're talking about pulling back the drug-free school zone limits that have been in place since 1987 That's 1,000 feet from a school as well as some other facilities. The council is considering pulling it back. I've heard numbers 400, 300, and even lower. And I would ask that not only as the chief educator of the township, but also a member of the Municipal Alliance, that you might consider having a statement to share supporting retaining the traditional 1,000-foot drug-free school zone limits. There's a reason why they've been there. Our students shouldn't have access too close to the schools if they have to have access at all. I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I don't want to hold you up.
Madam President and members of the board, Dr. Beck, thanks for all your time for our kids. Dennis Mudrick, 47 Shawnee Trail. Ms. Patricio touched on several baseball items. I just want to talk on one. In my 38 years in public education as a teacher, as a coach, as a building principal, district administrator, working in 9 different districts, I have never in all my years seen such a deplorable infield, an unsafe infield as in Feldner Field. I started my career as a high school social studies and coach in the Dennis Tobin, Chris Gent basketball era, coaching with Coach Tobin, and in the Gene Mendez baseball era, when our baseball field in 1986 and 87 was in better condition than it is in 2024, 2025. It is egregious that we would allow, if you have a son, a nephew, a student athlete that you're aware of, all I ask you to do, I'll go with you, it'll take 20 minutes, walk on that infield at Feldner Field. The ruts in that field are unsafe for our student athletes. We have D1, D2, and D3 players in our program with a new coach who's revived the program in 1 year. It's absolutely unsafe. I played semi-pro baseball. I'm not talking from China. Someone's going to get hurt. I ask you, I beg you, on behalf of our student athletes, I put 3 sons through this school district. One now is currently in his junior year, and he's an infielder. I'm concerned for his health. I ask you to please, if your buildings and grounds or could authorize looking at that infield, nothing else, not from 517, not from right field in a golf cart, when a visiting person says the field looks beautiful and rich green. Dr. Beck's a bright man. I ask him to take a walk on that field. I ask our building and grounds chair to walk that infield. And I assure you, you'll see what I'm talking about. We have the most disgraceful field of any. We could only play home games for conferences because our coach, who is rebuilding a program, can't take our student athletes to play home games against non-conference contenders. Really appreciate all your time volunteering. And Madam President, you got my vote because you handle things very well in a classy way, as do the majority of you. Member Morris and the rest, several other yous, not all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, motion to close. Thanks, Kurt. Second. Thanks, Rebecca. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, moving on for the good of the order. Please keep it brief. No one?
I have something.
Oh, go ahead.
Dr. Hinkle and I both were here just the other night for the science fair. Just wanted to give a shout out to the PTO, to Ms. Madsen, and of course all the students, but it was really a phenomenal event, and I'm sure you could speak to it as well.
No, I agree. I agree. It was a phenomenal event, and the kids were all very excited to share their science projects and their innovative ideas, and it was great to see. And so many staff members, teachers were there in support as well. Thank you.
Wonderful. Anyone else?
I just want to wish the girls' team good luck tomorrow against Pope John, and congrats to the boys' team who just beat Pope John tonight by 29 points. Good job.
I just wanted to say, about since the dance club came up tonight, what a great thing that we had a student come forward with an idea, and that as a board, we were able to quickly, thank you, Dr. Beck and administration, for meeting with the student to get that idea, and then to bring it forward to the agenda to approve it, and then to see Katie Sagowitz, move forward to be the advisor. It's just really great to see such a quick turnover of a student-led idea, and I think it kind of reminds us, just really our purpose in supporting the students. And when I did my training for New Jersey school boards, there was a wise older member who said, every time he would end a meeting, he'd say, well, what's in it for the kids? What do we do for the kids? And just as a reflection to the last meeting, I think how great is it that we submitted schematic plans to the state to potentially, help have great buildings, great spaces for learning for our kids. Tonight, we approved the funds, which we know every tax dollar is very important, and we don't take it for granted. We pay the taxes ourselves, but we're putting efforts forward to making sure our communication is very clear in what our ask is for as a district to help get our students and staff what they need to continue to have such a great reputation in our schools. And finally, to keep it brief, I just really appreciate the public participation tonight. It's not easy to come to the mic. It's not easy to come and talk about different ideas in public, and I appreciate the public bringing things to light that need to be brought to our attention so that we can refer to committee and look into things. So thank you all for your collaboration.
Well said, Lauren, and I also want to thank the community members. It was a long one tonight, so we really appreciate your patience to stick it out for public comment number 2. Thank you. Seeing no one else, motion to adjourn. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Oh, excuse me, second. Give me a second. Chad, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Any objections, any abstentions? Have a nice night, all. Thank you.